3. You ready? Let's light this candle. Go! I already started. Patron appreciation. Let's get this shit rocking. Mrs. Thomas is joining us for this particular episode. You ain't got nothing to say, though? You just want to do expressions. Okay, fair enough.
Aren't expressions enough?
I suppose so. Expressions could be enough. I mean, it is an expression of sorts. In most languages, body language. However,
radio.
People on like a podcast can't necessarily hear the body expressions that you're doing.
Well, fortunately, you haven't started this on a podcast, so this is only on YouTube.
But some people listen to it when they're like driving home or something like that, and they would just hear dead air. And that's Mrs. Thomas doing expressions. They would have to just in their mind create a mental image of what those expressions are. But hey, our society needs to have more visual imagery and all that good stuff. So that might be a good thing. All right, Patron Appreciation Special. So why don't you tell the audience what Patron Appreciation Special is? Contributor Appreciation. Contributor Appreciation. So initially when we first started this, it was Patron Appreciation. And then a lot of people contribute through like PayPal or in the mail, send checks in the mail. Some people don't like using electronics for that stuff. And so we just call it Contributor Appreciation. My thank you to the audience. Because honestly, like, YouTube is an untrustworthy actor. I say this all the time.
You literally just asked me to explain what.
But you were being real slow on the uptick, so I thought you might have wavered in your commitment to telling the audience
that's the only reason I'm here.
I was trying to help you out.
Is to say.
I was trying to bail you out.
Welcome to Contributor Appreciation. If you are just joining us, thank you. If you are not aware, this is the weekly show that Jamarl takes out to give thanks for everyone who contributes to the channel. As he stated, it was originally Patron Appreciation because there is a platform called Patron where people support monthly for the channel. But people give through Streamlabs, Super Chats, PayPal, and so it is everyone who contributes. People share, they like, subscribe. Just viewing is a contribution to the channel. And
yes,
once a week,
that's true.
We ask what you, the contributors, would like for him to discuss, and that is what fuels today's show. In keeping with the original theme, once a week there is a post that goes up on Patron, and it says, what do you guys want to hear this Sunday? And we use that to create the content for today's show. If you are a patron, please do not forget to log in weekly to give us your input. You can send in a personal message, or you can comment on the post. I was going to say share, but that was not the right word. Oh. You can comment on the post that's put up weekly.
I thought you were dropping 4-letter word. Just pulling a Joe Biden just out of the blue. It's like, what? That doesn't even fit in the language that you were using.
If you're contributing on PayPal, Streamlabs, Super Chat, and you have an idea for a topic, the email should be in the link down below. Or if you want to send it with your contribution, then we will use that as well. But again, thank you for everyone. And if you are not familiar with what Patron is, because again, people are not, essentially it is a way for you as a viewer to contribute to a content creator. You say, hey, I like his channel. I'm watching pretty regularly. I want to make sure that he can stream and create content consistently. So I'm going to make a commitment as little as $1, and every dollar helps, to give to this contributor monthly. And so that is what the Patreon platform is. So thank you for everybody who contributes monetarily, but again, not everybody can, not everybody wants to. Share the videos, like the videos, and make sure that if you're enjoying the content that you subscribe, and hit the notification icon next to the little subscribe button. That's the way that you get notifications that Jamarl is going live and putting up new content.
So
welcome to today's show.
So let's do the news. Let's do the news.
This one isn't. Well, I guess it's news.
It's news. It's funny
news.
Entertainment
news.
I laughed so hard. I told you for things on my show when I laugh and I enjoy them, I tend to bring them to my audience because I think my audience may also laugh at those things. Killmonger. I think that was his name. Killmonger, right? Killmonger. That was in Black Panther. The dude that Black Panther killed.
Michael
that had the
B. Jordan.
Killmonger. The one that had the bad upbringing and became a Killmonger because, he had daddy issues. So Killmonger is in Apollo Creed.
And left him there to die.
People have issues, man. I mean, people have all sorts of bad shit that happened to him. He became a killer. And look, I'm one of those people that, for the most part, believe that decisions is most of those things aren't choice. That we're kind of projectiles, we're ballistic, that have a little conscious intellect in that part. But he literally became a killer and named himself Killmonger because he killed so much and so often. Do the daddy issues overcome the Killmonger stuff? Like, for example, Adolf Hitler had certain insecurities brought about by the Versailles Treaty and the things that took place in Germany after the war. Now, does the fact that he had these kind of insecurities and all of this other stuff from the standpoint of his upbringing excuse the Holocaust? I don't think it does. I mean, that's kind of the same argument with the Killmonger thing. Yes, he had daddy issues. I don't doubt that it would be a difficult life. Even me, I would have a hard time reining myself back from, not being a homicidal killer at that point.
He says, Michael Williams says he was getting revenge for his dad. It wasn't daddy issues. They killed his father.
That's literally a daddy issue.
But daddy issues like, oh, my daddy left, and so now every male that comes into my life, and I don't know how to form relationships. That's daddy issues.
Daddy issues, it's kind of like a circle, right? There are 30 different circles.
Like
all of them are circles.
Your dad, that's a little different.
I'm just saying.
Giovanna,
it's
Liliana,
literally a daddy
thank
issue.
You. Giovanna, first pay, what is this? First Streamlabs of the show. Thank you, Giovanna. Says, can't hang today, but left a thumbs up and got linked to watch later and share.
Ah, thanks.
She says, live long and prosper. Oh, I nailed it.
Nice. Thanks, Giovanna. But nevertheless, Killmonger is also training for Apollo Creed, or was training after Apollo Creed. And the movie Apollo Creed, and in that, Killmonger is a boxer. Now, Killmonger, who's now a boxer in Apollo Creed,
he's pretending to be a boxer. Michael B. Jordan is pretending to be a boxer in the movie
Apollo Creed. Now, he has to get boxing training, so he can use his hands,
so he can be realistic.
And you've seen Killmonger's body. He's pretty built. He's built like a tank. He's swole. That's an understatement. But listen to this. He runs too close to the sun on this one. He flies too close to the sun on this one. He goes too far. Killmonger and the cash that he's been getting from playing Killmonger and then pretending to be Apollo Creed. Sometimes actors get into their heads just because they're acting at something that they can actually do the thing that they act at. He's like, I'm swole. I was able to hold my own in Black Panther. I mean, Killmonger, he got me in the end, but I was able to hold my own. I mean, missing the point that he had that serum in him that allowed him to do that, but missed that point. Fair enough.
He's in the gym training and getting swole.
Yeah, and he probably said, I kicked Black Panther's ass. I'm Killmonger. So yeah, I can take Roy Jones Jr.
What now?
Now.
Take who?
Roy Jones Jr. Now, he says this. Let's hear him say it. I want you to hear him say it. Because, I mean, it's like all the acting in the world does not prepare you for what you would be at the end, from the standpoint of being at the end point of a ring with Roy Jones Jr. And maybe some of the younger people who watch this channel don't know who Roy Jones Jr. is, and maybe have not seen those fights. But Roy Jones Jr. is not something. Yeah, he's something else. Like he's beyond.
And he's
boxing.
like 50 now.
He's 50, but he's still fighting.
So that's not even like his prime is not now.
Yeah, his prime is not now. But in his prime, oh my God, Roy Jones Jr. used to fight. He used to taunt sometimes with putting his hands behind his back when he's fighting guys. Because he was that fast, and there was such a differential in skill level between who he was and who everybody else at the middleweight was. And he couldn't be touched. There wasn't even a competition between anybody else.
Okay, play the video.
So let's hear him. Let's hear him. Again.
We're about to tell you right now, Sparkle Boom.
Too close to the sun.
I like that name, Sparkle Boom.
Too close to the sun.
I've been working out with Rocky. I've been working out with, like Apollo Creed. I'm doing my thing.
Absolutely. So now, who all time would you want to step into the ring with? Whether it's a boxer, wrestler, UFC fighter, anybody?
Like Roy Jones, bro.
Roy Jones?
Roy Jones. That's my.
You just fucked up.
Wait, play the rest.
You just fucked up.
He's just joking.
Dude, bro,
you think you can hold your own?
I feel like I can do my thing a little bit.
Yeah?
I can hold my thing right now. But in his prime, nah, he'll probably knock my ass out. But like right now, I can do my thing.
All right.
You can act? Because that's your thing, bro. You can do your thing.
Right. I like that. can do my thing. I can do my thing. Right. Your thing is acting. And here's the catch. You will get knocked the fuck out. And you would not be acting while you are getting knocked the fuck out. It is a different thing. Like, are you serious? Like, it's one thing to act where you're in a ring with a guy and, you know, it's like you're sparring, you like bounce it off of the guy, you move your hands and all this other stuff, but he's not going to hit you. And he's not going to try to take your head off. And he's not going to try to embarrass you in a stadium full of people. He's not this guy that's had 40 different matches where he's won all these guys. You know, that's a different thing. Being in a match where somebody is trying to literally take your head off and he is getting paid handsomely to do so. It's a different thing than pretending
to be a boxer. Now, he did train to be
Killmonger.
A very competent pretender.
Yeah. I mean, he was a good pretender. I don't take it away from him. And again, I don't even doubt that the average guy he could knock out. I mean, just the average guy in a bar, you know, that has no fighting ability, you know, does not swole. Fair enough. But Roy Jones? Oh, God.
See, I thought...
You have too high of an opinion of yourself, dog.
I thought he was going to say something like, oh, man, I love to get in the ring with him. I can learn so much, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, no, I could do my thing.
Name some random fighter. Name some random person. You know, like, Julio Chavez. Just some random guy. It'd be like, that guy. And they'd be like, who the fuck is that guy? And see, you can skate on that because nobody knows who that guy is. So you can say, yeah, I can knock that guy out. And you might be right. Some random guy named who... But don't do Roy Jones.
I think I thought he was gonna go a different way.
Even a moderate fighter.
I thought he was gonna say something along the lines of like, yeah, I could learn a lot from him. I'd love to get in the ring with him so he can teach me some things. It would be a great opportunity. But then I was like, well, maybe that's where he's going. But then he literally said, I feel like I can take him.
Yes, I can take him now. Yes, I couldn't take
maybe
him.
not in his prime.
Not in his prime.
Right now, I can do my thing. I can act the shit out that fight.
But the beauty of it is, Roy Jones is still fighting. Roy Jones heard him say that. Roy Jones heard him say that. Roy Jones says, bring this shit on. This is Roy Jones responding to this. Oh, I thought this was the greatest thing ever.
He can contact you and get my number, so there's no question about how can I find. No, you know how to find Roy. Call TMC, get Roy to come down here. So I ain't running from nobody. If Michael B wants this for real, contact Roy Jones Jr. and we will make it happen.
Yeah, see,
you got my number. He can contact you and get my number. So there's no question about how can I find. No, you know how to find Roy. Call TMC, get Roy's number from TMC. Let's make it happen.
Roy, now he said in the video, he said, I think he would probably have killed me back in his prime.
True, that's true.
How about now, though? Do you actually give him any chance to beat you now, even though you are 49, Roy?
I know he can't beat me still because, I know he's probably in better condition because he's younger and he can probably think he can go longer and probably thinks he may be able to even outwork me now. But I'm a vet. I'm an old school vet. Old school.
That's the thing that I was thinking. Just because you are in good physical condition,
that's not the end all be all.
Does not mean that you can win a boxing match. Not against someone who is seasoned. I mean, like, skill and technique comes along with just being swole.
Yes, it does.
I don't know what he went through to train for that. I mean, somebody said that there's like coaches and stuff like that.
I don't doubt.
I feel you.
I don't doubt.
But
that they had.
How long has Roy Jones been?
I don't doubt that they put boxers in the match, meaning that they had him fighting against boxers to make him look like he can act like a real boxer. So I don't doubt that. But there is no situation where those trainers put him in there with somebody who wanted to take his head off. That's a different animal. I'm sorry. And Roy Jones at that. By the way, Anthony is backing out of this. He wants
no. Is not Anthony.
Oh, I'm sorry, Michael. I don't know. I keep calling him Anthony.
Michael B. Jordan.
That's the reason I keep calling him Anthony. He's backing out of this. He's like, yeah, man. He's like, yeah, I don't want
to. Did he respond after Roy Jones Jr. was like, you can come get some?
He was backing out of it. He wants no parts of this. He's like,
said he was just hammering it up for the camera.
Yeah, he was.
It kind of felt like he was just like, yeah, I could take him. Like.
But you got to do that with somebody who's not still fighting. Like,
well, I mean, like, you talk a lot of shit about stuff.
Think of a boxer
They're
mentality.
just kind of...
Think of a boxer's mentality. A boxer's mentality is like a chess player's mentality, especially a barbershop chess player's mentality. There is a lot of shit talking that goes along with that, and there's a ton of ego that goes along with that.
Wait a minute.
And for to be Roy Jones, and this actor is saying that I can take him now, like not back then, but now, 49-year-old Roy Jones, if I got in the ring, I can knock his ass out. And Roy Jones is like, I am going to get that motherfucker. Fine, let's do this. That's going to be a ton of cash, and I'm going to knock the shit out of this actor who thinks he can do. Like, all of this. I don't know why he didn't. Why did he think that this was just going to go nowhere? Why did Killmonger think? Why did Killmonger think this was going to go nowhere?
Let me say, in line with
Killmonger,
boxers.
And wait, one more point. TMZ took that from him and then went to Roy Jones.
Of course
this is
entertainment.
This is so fucking funny. TMZ said, all right, yeah, so you think you can beat Roy Jones? Hey, Roy Jones, this guy said he could beat you.
Of course.
You two need to get this match
They're
going.
Instigating.
That's hilarious.
So in this same line before we move on,
yeah.
I just thought it was really funny because my uncle, the men in my family are tough men. They're men. They're manly men. They're manly men. And my uncle, who was over 45, I don't know if he was 50 yet at the time, but he was in the gym and he used to like train and, exercise, whatever. And he was watching some guys boxing at the gym. And along the same line, like barbershop talk or whatever you want to call it, he was talking shit to the guys in the ring. So bad, so much so, that the guy said, man, if you think you can better get your ass up here in the ring. And my uncle got
in the ring, right.
And he fought him and he knocked his ass out.
Well, see,
and since then, for like the last 5 years, my uncle has been boxing. Now, to be fair, they won't give him a match because they say he's too old. Because he started like really boxing when he was almost 50. But I just thought it was funny how you were talking about like especially boxers like pride and trash talking and stuff like that.
It is barbershop.
He was literally standing on the side of the ring and was like, man, I don't know what he was saying, but he was like,
that's some barbershop shit, man. Like if you're on the chessboard, like it depends on where you are. But from my standpoint, let me be racist for a moment. Blacks have a way of playing chess sometimes that has a lot of shit talking involved. And I don't say that as a negative. I say that as fucking awesome. I grew up in barbershop chess. And some of my favorite people on this planet come from that particular culture and that particular area. And, if you're on the side of the board, people talk shit. You're like, dude, if you want to get me, it's like, no, dog, I want to go. All right, then shut the fuck up then. Yeah. It's like that type of stuff. So I can totally see how a bunch of men roided up. Look at my huge muscle and breasts. Those type of guys. Jocks. Not much in the head. And your uncle comes up and talks trash.
Wait, you're being racist.
And your uncle talks trash.
Just because they are fitness enthusiasts doesn't mean they don't have any brains. I would just like to go ahead and put that out there.
Okay, fair enough. You can take the politically correct tone on this. But this channel is not for identitarians, and I'm just being honest. Jocks tend to not be very bright. But nevertheless, for the most part, you have these jocks, and your uncle is talking trash to these guys who are already in the gym, who are already showing their muscular skills in combat.
What was that?
That's how they used to fight nowadays. You never seen those? The old footage?
I have, but this is 2019, so I was wondering what the hell you were doing.
I know, but
go
that's
ahead.
a classic boxing style. It's like,
classic.
It's that type of stuff. And I can totally see the moment that your uncle says anything, the action for the most part compels itself. There's no backing out of that process. Meaning, the moment your uncle says something, they say, if you want to get your old ass in the ring, I'll knock you out. Your uncle has to get in the ring.
Wait. Uncle Brother says, oh, I'm too far. You can't hear me? Uncle Brother says, thank you. He says, hey guys, hate to be an audio nerd, but I can't hear my dog.
Okay.
Please try adjusting the mic so the knobs point directly at the camera. Push it away a little and center it between the two of you.
All right, let's see. Let's try to change this.
Because Dark Roast Lefty says, is Aisha far, far away from the mic?
Hello.
I was about to say something smart and say, do I look like I'm far away? But I'm not going to be
and let's do something else too. Let's alter the volume.
Pure Jumper says, yeah, Jamarl, don't be stereotyping us dummies.
Clearly, I'm joking.
And Sean McCoy says, not being politically, and I can project, so you'll be fine. I can project.
I'm turning the volume louder. Hold on.
Sean McCoy says, not being politically correct, but I'm going to have to disagree with you. All on the jocks not being smart.
I'm joking.
Good skill to play most game sports, whatever. Intelligence is usually high on that list.
I'm joking. Joking.
Khalida, yes. Welcome. We are still, somebody said, why are we talking about boxing? And this is politics, because when we do a live show, or when Jamal does this particular show, we like to just kind of ham it up, or
Not
just kind of keep it casual for
the show
first
is named Jamarl Thomas,
little bit to give people time to join the show. If you're watching, give the show a thumbs up, because it helps YouTube's funky little algorithm let people know that we are here and we are live, so they can come join in the fun. Craig Robb says, audio is way better now. Thank you guys for the help, and thank you for the super chat, Uncle Brother, and your audio technology.
I say stuff sometimes, and I can be brutally racist and all that stuff. Most of the time when I'm doing that, I'm joking. Most of the time. When I'm not, I'll tell you. I'd be explicit and tell you. In this case, no, I don't believe all jocks are stupid. I don't believe that at all. It takes a certain degree of intelligence to be able to do whatever they're, do it. And maybe I'm talking about higher intelligence. Or at least my
let it go. Let it go.
You know what I mean?
Black kids are smart too. Or what did he say? What did Joe Biden say when he was like, I mean black kids, I mean Asians, I mean black kids are poor. I mean,
no, I'm being very specific in this case. It's like people have various interests, and the interest in sports is sports. And sometimes that stuff goes into politics, and sometimes it goes into issues of war and that type of stuff, from the standpoint of combat. But I don't know. When I was in school, they used to focus on just sports.
One or the other.
The intelligence, yeah. It wasn't.
I was kind of an athlete in school.
I played chess.
Maybe I might be a chunkster now, but I was athletic in school, and it was important to be a student athlete.
Was it?
Yeah, which means if your grades weren't right, and if you had a good coach and all that other crap, then your grades had to be right anyway, because they didn't want you to be like some dumb jock. But yeah. So we are
fair enough.
Getting started. We got one more kind of startup show. If you're just joining us, we're at about 150 viewers now. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up, share, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We do have some real political content, but we have, this is political. This is political. So you want to share this other one before we get into the main stories?
wait a minute, let me make sure I can show this. Jesus Christ. So, okay, maybe I can show this. Come on. Twitter has,
What's our next topic?
Well, there are times, there was a parade that recently took place. And, there are times where, as a straight man walking through the city, and there may be like a gay pride parade or something like that. And all of these gay people are around me, and I'm like, oh, wow. I feel like I might want to fuck a guy. We need to stop that. And as straight people, we need to stand up for straight male rights.
I have a question.
Wait.
I have a question.
And these guys...
Questions need to be answered.
Wait. These brave men out here are standing up for the rights of straight men. And so they are having a straight pride parade.
Wait, is that how that works? If you are a heterosexual male and there are homosexuals around you, you're like, I think I would like to try
this is
a penis?
The stupidest shit ever. They're literally having a straight pride parade, and not just straight pride, like they're giving speeches, like they're being serious.
So this is a real thing.
This is a real thing.
Straight pride. I think I saw something like this. What's their logo?
I don't know. I mean, and actually,
like not a rainbow, maybe like
I think Twitter just died. Twitter just died on me.
Straight pride, no women show up, so they go back to Tinder.
It's so bizarre.
Garden Gnome says he's never felt that way.
I'm trying to understand where these guys are coming from, because otherwise
I always
this
think it's
seems utterly
interesting
absurd.
how someone else's sexual preference can offend someone else.
I never get that.
Like, what the hell does it have to do with you? And even if you are walking down the street and people are parading with cut-off booty short denim jeans and rainbow flags coming out of their asses and tied to their genitals, what does that have to do with you? Unless they are like groping you, or because I know like sometimes lesbians gay women, men will always say, not always, but sometimes men will be kind of condescending and be like, well, you're just gay because you haven't had the right man, or I bet I could bring you back and all this other stuff. Men say, dumb shit like that sometimes.
Did you say?
But like, unless that is happening to you as a straight man, then why do you care?
As African Americans, we used to have the thing of black pride. And, you have black pride, you have stuff like that, because for the most part, you've lived in a civilization that has denigrated everything that it means to be black. Lazy, retarded, dumb, step and fetch it, only good to be athletes, not necessarily having the mental capacities. And all of these things, to some degree, was a society trying to justify a enslavement on one point, and then a second-class citizenship on the other. It's like after slavery, you have black codes and all this other stuff when the South tries to pull back the reins on Reconstruction. But the reason that you have things like black pride is because blacks come and say, okay, we're pushing back on that narrative. And in pushing back on that narrative, you can't see anything of yourself, so we're trying to give you something positive to see of yourself. Look at us. We're out here. We're doing X. We're doing Y. We're standing for this. You should have pride in yourself. James Brown comes out with a song, I'm black and I'm proud. Everybody in the audience is white. Have you seen that video? It's an amazing video. Everybody in the audience is white. It's the weirdest, freakish thing ever. He's just on stage, like, dancing. He's, like, doing his shit. It's like everybody's in the audience is white. And I'm like, wow, that's like an acid trip, man. But he's saying that and doing that because he's trying to get across this thing of you're more than what they tell you you are. And the thing that you see in the media and the television and everything else, you're more than what they tell you you are. Even Obama becoming president. Same thing. The Cosby Show. I often use the Cosby Show as an example. Doctor, husband, lawyer, wife, awesome kids. Oh my God, I did not know we could have things like that. I did not know that could be us. It's this aspect of humanity, whether it's good or bad. We emulate what's outside of us. And in the case where we have something like of a color or this kind of tribal affiliation just within the context of the country, there's a certain denigration of that. And so this is a pushback. The same thing with gay pride. I mean, it's the exact same thing. In their case, literally being in the closet. I mean, they use the euphemism of in the closet in this notion of not telling anybody, hiding. In Britain, it was against the law. Touring went to jail for being gay after helping Britain win that war. Do you remember that? So, it's like, I mean, it is literally in the closet. Like, the naming of it and the phrasing of it in and of itself gets across this notion that it is a danger to be out because of the way people perceive you. And so having gay pride in that context makes all the sense in the world. Have pride in yourself. You're not alone. There are many of us out here. We have a collective, etc., etc., etc. It's the same notion, same motif as seeing yourself outside of yourself in positive roles. What the fuck are these guys doing? Like, what the fuck is this? Like, at what point?
They're trying to get out the message that it's still okay to be a straight person.
But that is the stupidest thing. Like, there's no point where straight people had to be like, God, we can't show our sexuality because, that never happened. That never happened. Which makes me think they're homophobic. Because it seems like, it's like, okay, we can't have them have their gay stuff because we're somehow adversely affected by their gay stuff. The only way you would be adversely affected by their gay stuff to the point where you're literally showing up at a gay pride parade is that you are harboring some feelings. Either there are some feelings for men that you don't want to deal with who are in those booty shorts. There's a bit of hatred.
There was a movie that I watched on Netflix last week. It had Angela Bassett, so I clicked on it. That might be racist, but whatever. But essentially, it's this group of women who go to kind of reignite their relationships with their sons. And so they go and show up at their sons' doorsteps and are like, I'm coming to stay with you for a week. And
just out the blue.
Yeah, and one of the women, her son is gay. And she's known that he's gay. And she gets to the house and it's like a gay hostel. There's like 4 or 5 different gay men living there. Are we frozen? Oh, we had a little bit of freeze.
Well, the system is like creaking.
Okay. They had a bunch of gay guys that were living there, but she's having dinner with him and his boyfriend and 2 other gay men that live in the house. And she asks him, well, why didn't you come out to me? And they had an interesting conversation. And he was like, why should I have to come out? Straight people don't have to say, oh, by the way, Mom, I just wanted to let you know, I hope that you accept me. I like women. But it was essentially the same kind of conversation because he was like, why do I have to make a statement? Especially because she was saying, yeah, I knew that already. You know, I knew that you were gay, but I thought that you would come out to me. But I thought it was kind of an interesting conversation that they were having. And he said the same thing.
You would come
Why
out to
should
me.
I have to come out? Straight people don't have to come out. Come out. Come out of what? You know what I mean? Like,
no, I understand. I get the concept. I guess it's, I mean, it's more of a, just a societal, colloquial, cultural thing that people come out and says, hey, I'm gay. It's like, oh, are you? Like, most of the time, I think people know. I mean, like, everybody in my life that's been gay, we've already known. They didn't have to come out at all. I mean, I don't need somebody to say, hey, I'm gay, even if it was a close friend of mine. I think it's a little
and most
strange.
people kind of like, because I've had two women that identified as heterosexual for most of their life, and then later on in life came out and said they were either bi or they were gay. And it was a big thing for them to say something and even tell me, who I considered, to be very close friends to these people. And on both instances, they were very like, oh my gosh, what is she gonna say? One of them was even crying, and I was like, is that what you had to tell me? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I thought you were gonna tell me something serious. Like, I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't know. It's weird.
All right, I'm
It's
trying
weird.
to pull this back up. Everything shut down. Everything fell apart.
Computers.
Yeah, sometimes those things have
computers
they do bad
do.
things. I was trying to show the parade because this guy gets mercilessly heckled. Like, it is a trolling of epic proportion.
Irene, that's what Jamal used to say, and I always thought that was so weird because
What?
she said she has friends that came out as gay, but they didn't have to tell her she has gaydar. I remember you used to say that. All right, let me read these two super chats. Andrew Church, thank you. Andrew Church says happy day after birthday.
Thank you.
Donald Smead again says happy birthday, man. What are your opinions on fast radio bursts in space, as well as debt jubilee? We are going to talk about the debt thing.
Yeah, the dead thing is going to come up. The radio bursts in space. It's hard to know what those are. So they've been finding these kind of quick bursts. Like, it's these like bursts of energy in space. And they're just now discovering these things. Now, I'm always enamored by scientists in their degree of hubris. Because often they would say, hey, there's nothing that can get back and forth. And it's like, how do you know that? How do you know that? Why would you even say that in the terms like that? Because there's no way for you to know. Your science is always expanding. And now you have this new thing that they just found that is going back and forth. And one of the possibilities is communication. Communication of who? Yeah. Right. That's awesome, right? But they don't know. They have no idea what's causing it and so forth. They're building a detector in order to be able to detect the bursts themselves and try to get more information about what they are. But they don't know what they are. I like it when I don't know what something is. I don't find it all that threatening. I find it more so as a curiosity of, that's interesting. Because one of the arguments is always, well, if there's something out there, why aren't we detecting it? Like, why don't we see it? Why don't we observe, any kind of beings out there in space if there is indeed something out there in space? And it's like, how do you know that your technology is at a certain point where you can't detect it at all? Like, it's like the cavemen sitting with two coconuts saying, yeah, there's nothing else out here, and their cell phone waves going back and forth the entire way. Like, your technology level may not be at a particular level to be able to detect whatever's out there. Who knows the level of technology that we're talking about that may be out there and what they may be using? And just because we have a certain degree of physical knowledge doesn't necessarily mean we may get it. And I think these bursts are a good example of that. Something new where they're just now trying to figure out and understand what it is. Who knows what's out there? So, all right. So I'm going to flip this over. And
are we going to watch the video?
We are going to watch the video.
From the Straight Pride.
Straight Pride. There's nothing wrong.
He just said the world has gone crazy and there's nothing wrong with being straight.
Nothing wrong with being straight. Right on, brother. Tell us more.
One thing, if you weren't straight, you wouldn't be here, buddy. Remember that. John, a little background on you, sir? Thanks, Anna. John, a little background on you? You worked for Eddie Tatunjian, convicted felon for 35 years. Are you going to say that you knew nothing of his nefarious activities, sir? Question time, sir. Please, don't be so rude.
He's trolling him.
So now I am guilty of the same.
No, I asked you if you knew anything about his nefarious activities in the 35 years you worked for him.
No, none whatsoever.
But you've spoken in support of him in the past,
I
sir.
do like him. He's a nice guy. He always treated me well.
Okay.
How many people are you expecting?
Hopefully about 1,000, we think. It depends. You know, a lot of it depends on how you report this. If you scare people, you might have a depressing.
If you scare people, because you're scared of those straight people.
We have hundreds of people that are registered, and they're coming from all over the world and all over the United States.
So that's what we know so far. It's our first parade, so who knows? If it was just me and Mark, we said we're going to march. It doesn't matter. We have a point.
What the hell is Santa Claus
I
doing?
think it's okay.
Don't know. He doesn't want to show his face.
Nothing wrong with that.
He's embarrassed. He doesn't want to show his face.
People saying that, it's just bizarre. What the heck's wrong with being straight? We think it's great to be straight. We say don't hate the straight.
Nobody.
We have to say that the
Said there's
taxpayers
anything
are
wrong with
upset
you
that
being
city
straight.
resources are going to be wasted because you three guys can't get laid. You said I had a heckler's right, didn't I?
He said that for real. What is the guy on the left?
Wait. He said that for real. Like, he comes out and he just starts
Seen
trolling.
this video. I love this cat.
He relentlessly trolls them. And he's like just angry right after that.
Because you guys can't get laid.
He's like, he said, how much of the taxpayers' money is getting wasted because you three idiots can't get laid? Wait, I want to see that again. That's awesome.
Oh my god.
This is hilarious.
That caught me off guard. I wasn't ready for that.
If it was just me and Mark, we said we're going to march. It doesn't matter. We have a point to make, and we think it's okay to be straight. That's all, and there's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't make you a hater. And if people are saying that, it's just bizarre. What the heck's wrong with being straight? We think it's great to be straight. We say don't hate the straight.
We have to say that the taxpayers are upset that city resources are going to be wasted because you three guys can't get laid.
How funny is
What
that?
kind of question is
What
that?
are you, an idiot?
No,
You are an idiot.
You've had your question.
You're an
Hey,
idiot.
you said I had a heckler's right, didn't I?
Wait. I love the split-second
I
lag.
like this cat on the end because he is cracking up. The
He
cat
is
all the way
laughing.
to the left.
But there's a lag. Have you noticed? It's like when he says it, there's a lull. It's like a pause. It's like, wait, did he just say that? Did he just say that? I think he just said that. That rat bastard. I love that. That's awesome. That's
Is
awesome.
this one of your trolls? This could have been like somebody from your channel.
That's a pause. Wait, let's watch the pause. Watch the pause.
We have to say that the taxpayers are upset that city resources are going to be wasted because you three guys can't get laid.
All right, he says it. Now it takes a moment to absorb.
How funny is that? What are you, an idiot? You are an idiot.
Okay, what are you,
You
an
said I
idiot?
had a heckler's right, didn't I?
Philadelphia, your girlfriend. What's her name again in Philadelphia? Your girlfriend's, what's her name?
What?
Please.
I'm sorry, what, sir? Oh, what?
Okay, no more questions for this guy. He's not a serious reporter. Ma'am.
You said media, sir.
I don't know who this is. That
is
is
this
just
dude?
awesome. That is just awesome. Yeah, ridicule is. Look, I am one of those people who try to give the benefit of the doubt.
To who? What are you talking about?
But none on this. This is nonsense.
Oh, you mean for the straight pride?
This is nonsense.
He said, don't hate us, or don't. It's okay to be straight, and he said it's not hate on anybody. But you literally started this off saying the world has gone crazy, everybody's gay, and we just want everybody to know it's fine to be straight, but there's no hate on anybody else.
That's a goddamn shame.
Everybody's saying these guys are gay.
Honestly,
the
that's
coolest
a
guy
goddamn
is the one
shame.
who laughs at that. I don't see any wedding rings on those fingers. Amy, that's what I said. I love the guy on the end because he was just cracking up because it was hilarious. They're clearly being trolled.
This is a position based on insecurity. You know that, right? Like, nobody takes this position and does that without being grossly
If they're confident
insecure.
in themselves and they have, first of all, if you have anything going on in your life, you don't have anything else better to do than
Show up at a straight pride. So stupid.
I think this is like a dating, like a meetup kind of thing.
So men can find other
where
men.
they're like, okay, I just need everybody to know that I'm straight, so I'm gonna go to straight pride parade. I'll be there. You gonna be there? All right, girl.
But
going straight
there are no
pride
women
parade.
there. There are no women there. There's no way there are women there. Like, this just seems so... Honestly, this comes across as men just being grossly insecure. And they see, oh, God, that guy in those fucking booty shorts. He needs to stop wearing that. Those booty shorts. It's kind of like in Muslim countries, where they were like, all right, those women need to dress up because, That we need them to be fully clothed, because otherwise they will entice us, and we need them to not entice us. Is that what this is? We need those gay people to
keep their gayness away, because I'm easily swayed.
Yeah, I mean, because I don't understand. Otherwise, I have no idea the basis of this. Typically, the pride stuff comes from an insecurity. It's like a weakness.
Right, that's what somebody else just said. Gay pride BS is insecurity also.
Right, it's an insecurity thing. And it's a pushback against the insecurity. So I get that. Black pride, same thing. But all of those have histories that kind of, push that forward. So you can kind of get it. This is stupid. There's no history. There's nothing that creates a situation where straight people are under threat by gay people.
So you have to let everybody else know that it's a hard world out here for the straights.
That's amazing, man. For the straights.
And so I just want to let the future straights out there know that it's okay.
You're absolutely dry. Like opposite of flaming. Like I'm trying to find.
That's
what? Flaming? Dry?
That's terrible.
That's a terrible. Okay.
That was terrible, babe.
Bad analogy. I'm trying to find something that matches up with, this, because this doesn't really make sense to me, if I'm being honest. But they got people here for this. There were people marching.
There's nobody out there.
There were people marching. There were actually people marching.
All right, we're going to move on from this. We've got 219 people. Is that okay? I just kind of all the way took control over that. That's cool?
Oh, that's fine.
All right. Honestly, I thought we were finishing up with
there wasn't much on that part. I mean, and we had already said what we're going to say on the story, so.
All right, so if you are just joining us, we are a little over 200 people, so welcome to Contributor Appreciation. If you are enjoying the content and shenanigans so far, give the show a thumbs up. It helps the YouTube algorithm let more people know that we are live so they can come and hang out with us. Once a week, Jamarl takes a day out to do a show to give thanks. I always feel like it's Thanksgiving when I say that. To show appreciation for the support of the channel, or everyone who contributes to the channel, whether it is PayPal, Streamlabs,
or likes,
patrons,
or views.
All that is great, but if you are not contributing monetarily, still thank you. Make sure that you're subscribed, and if the video pops up and you're interested, watch it, like it, share it, all that good stuff. All right, so before we move on to the first official topic, if you didn't know, we're just kind of doing kind of lighthearted entertainment news and stuff like this before we get into the real meat of the show. So Darren Alevi, thank you. Darren says happy birthday. Oh,
thanks, man.
If you did not know, Jamal's birthday was yesterday, August 31st. I'm not going to say her age.
No, give a shit.
But his
42.
birthday was yesterday.
Yeah. He's like,
I don't want to. Well, some people don't. I don't think you care, but I don't want to put. I mean, I shouldn't have hesitated because you just blasted mine when my birthday was a couple weeks ago. You're like, yeah, Mrs. Thomas.
I don't quite understand the thing around age. It is what it is.
Well, that's fine. I think we're aging well, and so it's not like some people are like, oh, and also I think it has to do with like how good you feel about your life so far. Like if you're like, oh man, I haven't done any of the shit I ever wanted to do in life, and I'm 35.
And so at that point, you're scared of telling somebody your age.
And then you're like, and maybe you're a little bit, but women are historically.
That's more so because men have a tendency to judge women by their age. Like that's another insecurity thing. Like it's a paternal culture thing. It's kind of like women not being able to show their breasts. It's the free nipple movement. It's the same thing. Like I don't want to tell you my age because at some point in history, men would look down on a woman because of her age because he wants younger women. That type of stuff.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I could be talking on my ass. But that's my thought.
All right, so Darren Alevi, thank you for the super chat. Darren says, happy birthday. Thanks. Please, could you have Gordon DeMac on to talk about Corbyn playing into Farage and Bojo's hands by supporting overturning the vote for Brexit, and Galloway on about Kashmir, from your lips to their ears?
I would love to have Galloway on again.
All of that, yes.
Now, Gordon DeMac, I'm supposed to be on his show next week. So that would happen.
When is that? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm supposed to, I think Wednesday or something like that, but we'll see. I need to nail down the time. As for, what's his name? That's, oh God, I would, what's his, Galloway is, I would love to have Galloway on. Galloway could be on the show like every other day. Okay, that might be a lot. But you know what I mean? Once a week or something to that effect. But I don't have the power to do that. Like, that's not within my discretion to do. I can only ask him.
Yeah, like, if it was that easy and it was like, you know what? I'm going to have that guy on to talk about this. There would be a different guest.
Yeah.
Every week, at least.
Because I ask all the time. I mean,
yeah. All right. I do not want to mispronounce your name. I'm going to, so I apologize in advance. But Otakun Diad, Otakun Diad.
Go for it. You tried.
OU, thank you for your super chat. Says, off topic, but please get involved with Fairtube.info. It's a gigantic labor union stepped up to help YouTubers. God, I'm struggling today. To help YouTubers rein YouTube in. They need folks like you. Is that the one that you were looking at?
Yeah, those are, so in Germany, there's an organization called Fairtube. So this organization is trying to essentially create a union and to bring Google to the bargaining table for YouTube content creators. They have been reaching out, trying to get various content creators to join. And they've apparently...
Union.
Yeah, but they've apparently got YouTube to respond to some kind of letter that they issued to them saying that they want to have some kind of negotiation. So I don't know enough about it. That's kind of the catch. And I haven't heard any media about it at all, especially not necessarily in the United States. So that's like the last thing I heard was that they were able to get Google to come to the bargaining table on something. They sent out a letter, Google responded, and so...
Response is a good step.
Response is a good step.
Good first step.
And I have to be honest, I don't know why each and every person on this planet that is involved in some kind of content creation wouldn't automatically get involved in that process. Why?
Well, wait. You just said you don't know enough about it, and you've heard about it several times. I'm sure that a lot of people don't know about it.
Well, no, what I mean is it's something that says we're going to corral YouTube. And we're going to get a situation where content creators have some say in their dealings. Even if you don't really know anything about it, don't you look into it? And I, at the very least, put my name on the things. And yes, because it's just the email address. And at the very least, I can keep, tabs on what they're doing in regards to doing it. I guess my point is, it makes all the sense in the world. You're in a system that you have no control over. You have zero control over your process and your work thing. Google has just got rid of they've just had mass destruction of sites just a few days ago, and then put out a letter saying we're an open platform. Get the fuck out of here. So you have no control over the platform to which you work. It makes all the sense in the world to get involved in a union. I don't understand why people wouldn't want to do that.
Okay.
But most people might not even know that that thing exists.
That's all I was saying.
Yeah.
All right, another super chat. Thank you so much from Cool Blue 71. Cool Blue says, "Happy belated birthday, Jamal. Those men may be an example of how there is no such thing as bad publicity." He's talking about for the Straight Pride Festival.
That is so weird. They got ridiculed mercilessly for that.
Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday. 42 is the answer to life.
Yes, it is.
The universe.
Oh, yes, it is.
And everything.
Do you know where that comes from?
Based on your level of geek outedness, probably Star Trek.
No.
42 is the answer to life and everything?
40. Essentially,
wait. Is that the number when he was like, what's the answer?
Yeah, he said, what's the answer to life?
What's the movie?
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Okay.
It took me a moment to figure out the name of the movie, even if I can see it in my head. Yeah. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This vast civilization built a computer. And it says, "We beseech you, computer, what is the answer to life?"
Yeah.
And it says 42. And it says, what? And it says, okay, now you need to build a computer to figure out what's the question. Oh, I love that. God, I love that. I thought that was fucking awesome. Yes, I geek out over shit like that because it's awesome. All right, do you want to do one of the patron questions?
Yes, and this is actually not a comment on the typical... So if you... I said this earlier, but the way that we do this is weekly on the Patreon platform, because that is how this show started. A post goes up and it says, "What do you want to hear for this Sunday show?" And people usually give their suggestions. Someone sent a private message, and I thought this was interesting, from Megan Morales. So I am going to share this. I think she'll be fine with that because she said she would listen to it on today's show. So Megan, if you're here, shout out to you, girl. No. All right, so Megan says, she talks a little bit about the show and about how she subscribes to YouTube Premium to try to help out content creators and Jamal because of all the stuff that you were talking about.
Yeah,
demonetizing and everything else. But she goes on and then she says...
they've gotten to the point where as soon as the video goes up, it's just monetized. and then the computer will like be kind of doing this thing back and forth. And so a video that could be monetized, and then you check on it later, it's demonetized. Like, it's that type of weirdness, man. That it's this YouTube is an aggravating thing to work.
So, P.S. on a personal note, this is the end of Megan Morales, and this is a question to you. Okay. She says, P.S. on a personal note, I've heard you mention several times now that you, Jamal, do not identify as a socialist.
Yes.
Given your political analysis and focus on class, I'm curious to learn how exactly you identify yourself, if any label is fitting. Happy to wait until Sunday's contributor appreciation session to hear the answer.
Yeah, I often say I'm not a socialist. I don't think I'm anything. I mean,
nothing.
Well, I the way I look at the world is that environment creates behavior, and as the environment changes, the behavior also needs to change to deal with the environment. Dealing with like one very specific ideology in a situation where reality doesn't necessarily bend to your ideological whims. I don't necessarily get stuck in this context of a socialist, an anarchist, a libertarian, etc., etc. What environment are we in, and what needs to take place from a societal standpoint to ensure that the society is intact and taken care of? That's my basis of operation. And within that, it's like healthcare, making sure everybody has healthcare and those type of things. You can get granular with it. This notion of having like certain things that provide it outside of government's action, but they're not corporations. They just act in order to provide a particular thing. But we're so far away from ever really touching that stuff. I don't really necessarily even try to go there too far. My only basis more than anything else is just, look, if any label took place, it would probably what is it called, libertarian anarchist or something like that, or anarcho-libertarian or something, whatever it was called. But I don't have, I don't get stuck in the labels. Yeah.
I like it because, I don't know what I am. Nothing. Even though no one asked me. But I will say,
libertarian socialist. That's that's probably the closest thing.
For you?
For me. But but even that. I mean, I don't like look, the moment that you hit a label, you get stuck defending that label.
Right, that's what I was going to say. The good thing about it being kind of like above it all, or like, man on the moon, how you like to say sometimes, is that there are no allegiances. Because it's the same thing like if you join a company and someone says something, you, to a certain extent, have to kind of...
You start defending it.
Taper at least what you say about it. Censor yourself based on, even if nobody says don't say X, Y, Z, just because you're affiliated with that person or that party, then you kind of limit how you speak on it. And saying that you're above it all, I have no allegiances, I'm part of no party, allows you to be hopefully more honest and a little bit less biased when you're giving your analysis.
Yeah, I mean, but she's not talking necessarily about a party per se. She's talking about like an ideology.
I know what you mean. I'm just using the term party.
Yeah.
Same verbiage.
Yeah. But it's a similar idea though. Like I've seen people call themselves socialists. They're like, well, I'm a socialist. I'm a proud socialist, etc. And they get into a back and forth with someone, and it's something that's grotesque that didn't work well. And it's something that they identify with socialism, and they end up defending this that kind of point. Out there, yeah. And it's like,
well, that's what I'm saying.
Why are you defending that?
Because
you're defending that because you're stuck within the context of a label,
right? Because then it's hard to say, well, I'm a socialist, but I don't like these aspects of socialism. You know what I mean? So if you're having a conversation with someone about socialism, then you are expected to love everything about socialism. You know what I mean? Like it's kind
of. Not to mention, I am not competent enough.
You get put into the box, and you got to love everything in the box. And if anybody tries to step on the box, you got to defend the box.
To know all of the details of that stuff, like Richard Wolff can competently argue Marxism because he's a Marxist. Like he's studied that stuff for God knows how long. I don't look at the world in those terms. There are things that I want, and within the context of those things that I want, I need certain ways to analyze the world that I live in. What is in your toolkit for that analysis? Marxism is in your toolkit for that analysis because that's a critique of capitalism, and so you end up kind of using Marxian philosophy in order to kind of attack, capitalism in that sense, and your way of trying to transition out of this particular mindset. But using the argument doesn't necessarily, I can use a hammer. I'm not the hammer. in that case, like I can use the argument. Those things are just tools in a toolkit of sorts.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like I don't have to be a part of it in order to understand the logic of it and think that it's correct in order to use those particular aspects to kind of attack the thing I'm trying to attack. Not to mention, there are aspects of it that just make sense, like that comes across as just right. Like when Marx is analyzing just the way companies interact with one another, just notion of maximizing profit and and how companies like the battling between one another, and even in the way that it affects us, just human beings who are not part of the capitalistic system. Like some of that stuff is a common sense thing. Some of it is Marx, the way Marx will argue it. The common sense thing is if you tell a company that its job is to maximize its profit, it will do just that. And pretending that it won't, and these guys are somehow elitists above humanitarians, it's nonsense. They're just people.
All right, really quickly, thank you for that, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, so moving on, just really quickly, when we did the countdown show at first, we had to kill that feed and then start another one. In that first countdown, Money Train James actually gave a super chat.
Did he?
While he was waiting for the show to start, and so I apologize. He did just call me out, or call you out, or us out, whatever. But he says, "Did you see how Bernie?" Or first of all, thank you, Money Train James. He says, "Did you see how Bernie did the ADOS reporter yet?"
No.
I'm going to say that's a no.
He did the ADOS.
He said, "Did you see how Bernie did the ADOS reporter?" We have to look at that.
I have to find it.
The answer to that is no, but we'll look into it, or he'll look into it.
I would wager he probably doesn't want to have that particular conversation because he doesn't feel that conversation needs to be had. Not to mention,
Jeffrey Long says he's got a Pac-Man shirt today too.
Does he? Nice. My dad used to play. One of the few things that memories that I have of my dad is Pac-Man. We used to play it all the time. We used to take me to the arcade, and he used to be able to get to the point where they stopped changing after you hit the power jazzer. He even got to the point where he knew quirks in the game where you could hide Pac-Man, leave, and go for like hours, and they could never touch him. Like, that's how much he played that game. At my best, I probably could put like 150,000 up. He would put just absurd numbers up. Yeah. So.
I gotta get some graphic t-shirts. I do have Bob Marley one though.
I like that Bob Marley. Who bought that Bob Marley one?
Who bought that Pac-Man one?
My mama.
That's fair. Pure Dreamus Jumper says he likes the Marley one better. All right. Thank you.
Well, I bought it, so now back
what?
at you.
I basically bought that one. I picked it out.
Bitter much.
When's the last time you bought some of your own clothes? Let's talk about that. Did you have a providing shopaholic wife?
Pretty much.
That takes care of all the
I keep saying Batman needs a Superman needs a Batman. Superman can be the paragon of virtue as long as Batman is out there punching criminals in the face. I want to talk about Kashmir. And if I'm not mistaken, one of the patrons also brought up this notion of Kashmir.
Yes,
right?
It was Michael Williams. Shout out to Michael Williams. He was the only one that gave topics for Patreon this weekend. This week.
The only one?
He was the only one that commented and gave his topic suggestions for this week. He says he had a couple of them, and we are going to talk about the second one, actually. But on this one, he says, "Happy birthday, boss. Can you discuss either Israel trying to bring us to go to war with Iran and its allies, or India and Pakistan?" And so, along with what you were kind of already planning on touching base on, Michael Williams, we are going to talk about your topic. Or he's going to talk about it. I'm just going to sit here and look crazy.
So, India... So, let's talk about Kashmir. Kashmir is a weird region. Thanks, Brits. I always like to say thanks, Brits, when we're dealing with a problem that Britain calls, white man's burden, carrying the world on their shoulders, that apparently nobody asked them to do. But Kashmir is a region that is essentially in contest. Pakistan, India, and China all have claimed the various areas of Kashmir. Now, within the context of that, Kashmir is the only Muslim population that is ruled by those Muslims. It is an autonomous region, or at the very least, it was an autonomous region. India, the only autonomous region that was run by Muslims, and that has just changed. India has revoked what's called Article 370. Article 370 is the article that gave them the ability to be autonomous. Yeah. And that autonomy was not supposed to be question without involving the Kashmiris in that decision. Meaning Article 370 essentially defends itself by saying, you cannot touch me without dealing with the Kashmiris in touching me. Modi got rid of that, revoked it. And not just revoked it. And this kind of surprise attack went in, arrested all of these activists, be it business leaders, activists, political leaders, anybody that might have said anything about what was taking place, flooded the area with military, cut communications, and he's essentially created an open-air prison. No communications have gotten out. No reporters are allowed to get information or news out. Every so often you might get snippets of something, but for the most part, they have clamped down on that area. India, when asked, essentially made it look as if, hey, no problems. Everything's great. The world is great. They're digging what we're doing in the Kashmir. No issue at all. Imran Khan, Pakistan's prime minister, is freaking out. He is pissed off, and he's trying to get a coalition of support to put pressure on Modi to stop what he is doing. Modi is a right-winger, and Modi is not going to stop what he is doing because the Indian population, particularly the Hindu population of India, likes that he is taking the Kashmir. And some of them would like him to even go further than that. So, it's one of those things where, think of right-wingers in the United States. Think of how they act. But this is also along tribal lines. In the same way as black, white, gay, straight, so forth. But it's a different tint. Kind of like in Africa where they had the various tribes. Mm-hmm. In this case, it's almost different religions. It's like those fights are always there. Those tribal fights are always fucking annoying, and those tribal fucking fights are always there. And in this case, Hindu and Muslim. This is the only area where there's a Muslim control in India. And that area has just now become subordinated to the parliament. And another thing, there were certain actions that taken place that allowed that to take place. Meaning there was an undermining of the rule of law in Kashmir to allow him to take power in this way. So initially the first step was for the BJP to pull support from the government that was in, the ruling government that was in Kashmir. Well, at that point, that dissolved the government. At this point, we don't have a ruling majority in the government. That allowed the government to have the governor of that particular area take direct control of Kashmir. Mm. And then after that, Modi comes in and says, okay, now we're revoking Article 370. None of this stuff is legal per se, but yet he was doing it. And they were using fig leaves. They would say, okay, we have safety issues, which is why we're taking all of these activists and all of these other people and we're putting these people in jail or arresting them. Nobody knows what they are. They would just disappear. Gone. People are pissed off. India is saying that this doesn't exist. It's tear gas. And they're throwing rocks.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And India's saying there are no protests, there's no tear gas.
India said this doesn't exist. India is saying no issue here, folks. No issue. There's no issue. Everything is copacetic and all right. Everything is not copacetic and all right. And I have to be honest, I don't necessarily do a huge amount of focus on India because oftentimes my show focuses on where America intersects, if that makes sense. But I have followed this because I'm interested in politics and news. Modi is a right-winger. And if I know anything about right-wingers, especially within the context of India, where he has a country that seems to be backing what he is doing here, he has no reason to back down. Nor do I think he is going to back down because there's nothing to stop him from backing down.
That.
Pakistan has started to beef up the military on their side of the border. India has already beefed up the military on their side of the border, and there have been border skirmishes between the two countries. Both of these are nuclear power nations. Both.
What does that mean for the United States?
Well, the question becomes, what role does the U.S. play in this particular conflict? And it's kind of unclear. Donald Trump has a relationship. We have relationships with both. So, is it possible for somebody to play moderator or mediator between the two in the situation? It's unclear on what is taking place in that regard. Because at this point, I haven't heard anything about Trump or anybody else getting involved in the process. But Imran Khan has been trying to get world support to push back on this. So it's right now, there's a lot of people who've been in prison and the family or nobody else knows. Like, these are just business people. Like, these are not all like, criminals or whatever. These are people who might have been like, the guy who runs the massage shop down the street.
Yeah, like students probably too.
Oh, students, right. As young as 14 years old, right. They've been arresting people as young as 14, and they've been carting them out because Indian media has been lying to its public. Now, I don't say this, sitting with a high note, because our media lies to us also. But I think the beautiful part about this is that you can see this, and it's almost like watching Star Trek. Like when you're watching Star Trek and you're watching a particular planet, and you can see from a third person point of view what you're like. It's a reflection of yourself, but it's done in a third person way that's not that doesn't make you defensive from in hearing it. So you can deal with stuff like race and sex and all this other stuff without it being like, or even terrorism. Britain can deal with the terrorism thing, but most people could deal with the terrorism questions on Star Trek and have those honest questions about it. It's like, oh, we don't like terrorism, but oh, it also works. It's those type of that dilemma of sorts. Because the last thing you want to say is terrorism works, because then at that point you're stuck with this notion of terrorism works. But the honest answer is sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. Depends on the situation. It's like anything else. Watching India is the same thing. No, they're not on a new planet, but for American audience, for all intents and purposes, might as well call it a different planet. And our understanding of their politics and everything else, India doesn't really bump into our media like talking about. And so when we get to see this government is literally repressing this area, and a compliant media is going along with the government as it does that. Now, the question for you is America that much different? That's the interesting question, right? If their government does this, meaning their government is clamping down on a particular area, the media comes in and the media says, nothing to see here, folks, nothing to see here. For all intents and purposes, India may be looking at this particular area as if it's like a foreign area or something like that and saying, okay, they had autonomy, now they don't have autonomy, and we are trying to take this particular region, this particular area, we're trying to take it. And in trying to take this area, we need to back our government as it goes about doing this. Now, is there a correlation from the standpoint of America when we are dealing with other territories or we're dealing with areas like foreign adversaries that we consider foreign? Like if we're talking about China, does the media skew the results like that? Yes, it does. If we're talking about Russia, does the media skew the results? Yeah, it does. Like, you get my point? Like, it does the similar things in this way when we're presented with media. I'm fascinated by this. Their media literally didn't show this. And the business leaders and stuff that they took called them terrorists. Call them terrorists. Essentially smearing them in order to make it okay to take them away. Because if you say this guy was a business leader in this particular area, he's an activist. We just didn't want this guy running his mouth. No, they had to denigrate the image of the people first in order to get them out. And so they are terrorists. They're, whatever. It's a fascinating story. I mean, honestly, man, this is one of those things that you got to pay attention to. Well, you don't have to. But
so who?
But Sanders.
That's what I was gonna say. Who's talking about this?
Sanders is, and I haven't even heard. Like, I know I did a video saying I wish Tulsi Gabbard said something about it, because Tulsi Gabbard is a foreign policy Democrat. Like, her claim to fame is literally foreign policy, so I wanted her to talk about it. Not to mention, all of the people bring up her connections with Modi and everything else. But if I'm being honest, I want all of them to say something about it, because I want to know what they think about foreign policy. Yeah. There's a video I have with Yang, where Yang is saying some out there stuff. But again, this is the guy, the Asian man, wants to give me $1,000. So people don't really ask him in a sense of policy stuff, but you should ask him foreign policy. Yeah. Same thing with Elizabeth Warren. Everybody dinged Sanders last time saying, oh, he's not talking about foreign policy. Oh, he's not talking about foreign policy. And now Warren gets in the race, and when they talk about foreign policy, she recedes into the podium. She just backs away. Just falls gently and slowly. That's what happens. That's what happens. Look at the old debates. It's the same. When they got into foreign policy, Warren was nowhere to be found. You could not find her on that debate stage. I was like, I could have swore she was on that debate stage. Jake Tapper was looking for her. He's like, is Warren? Where is Warren? Is she here? So fortunately, one independent senator from Vermont that's running as a Democrat does have something to say about what is taking place in Kashmir. And again,
Kashmir.
This is why, one of the reasons I am supporting Bernie Sanders. Hashtag my Bernie story.
The situation in Kashmir where the Indian government has revoked Kashmiri autonomy, cracked down on dissent, and instituted a communications blackout. The crackdown in the name of security is also denying the Kashmiri people access to medical care. Even many respected doctors in India have acknowledged that the Indian government imposed restrictions on travel are threatening the life-saving care that patients need. India's action is unacceptable. The communications blockade must be lifted immediately, and the United States government must speak out boldly in support of international humanitarian law and in support of a UN-backed peaceful resolution that respects the will of the Kashmiri people.
Why is that so hard for the other candidates to say? Honestly, because this is, all of the candidates who are running in this race, especially if you're talking about the top candidates. I don't know if Joe Biden knows where Kashmir is, and that that's not fair. He may know where it is,
and he forgot.
He might have just forgot how to say it. So I don't have a large expectation of Joe Biden saying anything. People aren't voting for Joe Biden for policy. But Tulsi Gabbard is running as a foreign policy candidate. I look forward to hearing her say something about it. Elizabeth Warren is running as an echo of Sanders. She should say something about it. It's a big deal. If you're trying to be president, one of your foreign policy disasters might be the fact that these two nuclear power nations are getting engaged in larger and larger skirmishes. Mm-hmm. Am I insane? It just seems the most natural thing in the world to comment on, seeing as it seems to be a big deal.
Kathleen Looney says, were all of the candidates invited to that event today with Bernie?
I don't know. I know Biden had been skipping some events. The event in San Francisco, he skipped that. He didn't want to, well, from my understanding, he didn't want to look bad. So I don't know.
You that?
Well, the reporting was making the point of saying Biden skipped the event because he didn't want to get necessarily a negative reception at the event. And especially if those events are more to the left, you can see kind of the issue with that. He doesn't want to look bad. But yeah, Kashmir self-determination. Because look, you have an area that has a certain degree of autonomy. That autonomy was enshrined in their own laws. And for the just kind of unilaterally removing of that autonomy, and he uses some, we're trying to get economic development in that area and we're going to make their life better, et cetera, et cetera. They don't seem to think that, buddy. They don't seem to think that at all. In fact, they're thinking the opposite. And by the way, this is a prime minister who, is widely considered to have been responsible, or at the very least allowed a massacre of Muslims to take place. He's not trusted in this sense by this particular group. And, the number of hate crimes and stuff have gone up. They're freaked out. And I don't blame them for being freaked out. The story from the New York Times kind of made this point that people were saying that, the next step is going to be violence, like rockets and guns is going to be the thing that solves this issue. Yeah. Honestly, they're getting further and further involved in this kind of escalation. So that's where we are with Kashmir. I think I gave a decent explanation.
That's good, because it's one thing just to go and say, this is what happened, or this is what might happen. But I think it's helpful for people who are not following it as closely to give a little bit of backstory.
Well, yeah, I mean, but the only way to understand it is the backstory. Like even if you're talking about like Britain and the way that it wasn't entirely understood who was going to get what. Like Britain just fucked this world up in many respects. Like, don't get me wrong, I follow the country, I like the country, but when their empire fell apart, it fell apart. And so you ended up with the Kashmir issue. You ended up with, what's the other one? No, there's another one that's a big one. Hong Kong. You ended up with the Hong Kong issue, where Britain strips Hong Kong away in order to punish China for not letting them sell drugs. Like, think about that shit. Like the Opium Wars. Because at various points in Chinese history, they were trying to throw off Western influence.
Yeah.
And, this big push over and over and over again. Even China's role in World War II. Oftentimes, that's not even talked about. But China, the communists and the other one, the communists and the social democrats came together in order to fight off, the communists and the governmental forces came together to fight off the Japanese. Because the communists had their own group and their own militant wing at that point, and they were at odds and they were fighting. But I guess my point is, that stuff usually doesn't get talked about. They have a deep, let's call it insecurity, associated with Hong Kong. Like any person would have a deep insecurity about it if something happened to them and they needed to kind of respond in kind. And they couldn't respond, meaning they couldn't protect or defend Hong Kong. And so now you have this thing that doesn't want to be you, even though it's you. It's like, this kind of organ that's rejecting of sorts. And from the standpoint of them, they look at it as, that's our territory, that's our country. You guys ripped this away, not to mention the way it was ripped away, and for the reasons it was ripped away, and the fact that they don't want to be part of it makes it that much worse. In 40 years, Hong Kong is supposed to go back to China, and this one country, two systems thing is supposed to break down. Don't look like that's going to happen, dog. What did I tell you? I think I've said it more than one occasion. Anytime you have a protest, we have a large body of people who get together and they're doing their thing and they start to feel themselves and they're like, oh, fuck, man, juices are fucking flowing. We took down that airport. Like, I'm telling you, I shit you not. When you look back through history and you look at like the Russian Revolution, even Spain, even France, what's taking place there, they're still having those protests. The Yellow Vest movement. It starts off as something small, but it escalates. In Hong Kong's situation, it made 0 sense. This protest made 0 sense if it wasn't going to, we want democracy and to be let off. I mean, because what? It's like, yeah, we don't want that law that allows us to be pushed over across seas. Okay, in 40 years, you're going to belong to China. So what? You don't want that law. It doesn't fully make sense unless it goes there. The catch here is that it's not going there by itself. And I want to talk about the Hong Kong thing. Let's transition to Hong Kong.
Okay.
So, this guy, this is Jimmy Lai. Jimmy Lai is a plutocrat. Jimmy Lai lives in Hong Kong. Jimmy Lai is supporting the pro-democracy protesters. He's been funding them. Jimmy Lai has contacts with Pompeo, John Bolton, Trump administration, those Americans. And he was in the United States almost like a month or so ago. So, I did a video saying that when these guys were holding up the American flag, that they weren't holding it up for no reason.
Yeah.
That the reason that I was like, there's no way they're holding this flag up for no reason. They're either doing this to want support or they're doing this to send a message. Now, China comes out and says the black hand. Well, they're talking about us. They're saying that Western powers are involving themselves in Hong Kong in their affairs because they want to undermine China. And I've kind of made this point that there are two reasons. Either strip Hong Kong away, in which case just deeply problematic and embarrassing, or provoke a reaction. Just like with Russia. Like when the United States was involved in Afghanistan, that provoked a reaction from the Soviet Union that Russia overcommitted itself in regards to the affairs of Afghanistan, creating their own type of Vietnam. It's not so much that the Hong Kong thing will create a quote-unquote Vietnam, but the world will flip If China dropped military into Hong Kong, the world would flip the fuck out. They wouldn't do anything because China is a nuclear power nation. They kick ass. But they will, oh my God, look at them, look at them, look at them. This notion of trying to paint China and Russia as the boogeymen, bad guys that we gotta be, this existential threat. And then every time a politician talks, it's like, and China invaded Hong Kong, those bastards. Well, in the same way they do with Russia, when Russia invaded the Crimea. Do you realize Joe Biden said that? Joe Biden, he couldn't remember Obama's name, but he could remember the term Crimea. He probably practiced that really heavily. The Crimea voted to go with Russia. Do you know why they voted to go with Russia? Because the United States have been supporting a bunch of Nazis in regards to paramilitary forces within the Ukraine when the Ukrainian government collapsed. That's why. That's never said. That's never said. The only part that's said is, those fucking Russians took the Crimea. They don't say the other part. Like, it's always aggravating to me when I talk about American news. Because, just like the Indian news, where they were like, nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see here, folks. America, we do it a little bit differently. We just say, yeah, when those Russians took the Crimea. And just let that shit ride. Everybody knows what you're talking about. Nobody's going to push back at that. Nobody's going to say, wait. Didn't they vote to go to Russia? I mean, it wasn't the Ukrainian collapsing. I mean, come on. I mean, this doesn't seem fair. Your implication here is that these guys were running roughshod over, that never took place. I get aggravated by that because it's unfair in regards to coverage. And, I don't necessarily know if peace is possible per se, but I do know it's not possible by being dishonest when you're interacting in affairs that way. I mean, granted, you could say, well, they're going to lie to us, so we should lie to them. But that's, again, somewhat of a circular reasoning. You kind of have to start from somewhere. It's fucking aggravating. So, Hong Kong, this guy, Jimmy Lai, is the connection. That's the connection. Now, there's an American diplomat that was outed by China. I've shown that picture on more than one occasion. I would have to find it. But that's one American contact. Lai is another, since Lai has essentially access to our political system, meaning Bolton, Pompeo, Trump, et cetera, et cetera. He's the in-betweener. Meaning, when these guys are flying the American flag, they're not doing it for no reason. This is him out in these protests. They're doing it to send a message. A, that they are involved in the process, which is kind of a thumb in the eye. But beyond that, the thumb in the eye thing, it's pressure from the standpoint of negotiations. At this point, the United States considers China an economic threat. They're trying to take out Crown. They're trying to go further than what they are supposed to be able to go. Their technology is far more advanced than what we want to give them credit. Now, you can see right off the bat why this is problematic. China is 3 times our population and is larger than our landmass. If China develops economically just naturally, by definition, they would catch us just because, it's a massive, massive country. However, the U.S. has taken the position of, we need to stop them. We need to curb their influence. Mm-hmm. And it's how do you do that without coming into conflict with a country who you are trying to curb their influence? Because if we're being honest, you have no right to curb their influence any more than they have, it's like you have no moral right to do this. This is just power play. Yeah. In which case they have every right, as much as you do, to not allow themselves to be curbed. I hope you understand what I mean. Like, this is not a right and wrong issue. This is not, China is morally wrong for expanding. That's nonsense. Nor is it, China is stealing our property. Britain used to say the same thing about the United States. Britain and France. They used to say, they're stealing our intellectual property, those bastards. Now we're saying it about China. All right, fair enough. My point is, this is not a moral issue. This is a country that is trying to assert a certain degree of political will by stopping a rival from getting ahead of it. That's what this is. That is literally what this is. Because of such, China has every right to not allow themselves to be curbed and to push past whatever boundaries the U.S. is trying to throw up. This creates conflict just by definition of the way it's positioned. the U.S., I guess my point is the U.S. is causing conflict just based on its position. Like, this secondary thing, the U.S. has a military strategy that says we won't allow any country to get to the point of the Soviet Union strength, meaning no new rivalries. We won't let anyone become such a threat to us that they're a military rivalry. Now, you can make an argument that the Soviet Union was never really a threat to the U.S. because when they were yelling the missile gap stuff, it was nonsense, and they knew it was nonsense. But that's their position. But because that's their position, that means that they will be at odds perpetually across the globe. We're in a unipolar world, meaning that there are multiple threats under their guise in that sense. This is problematic. That's what I'm saying. China is not going to take Hong Kong being stripped away. China knows that the United States is involved in these affairs with this guy as a conduit between those things. Not just this guy, but also the other representative. There's an advance on this. Many people have been arrested at the protests in Hong Kong because the protests have gotten violent. What started off as peaceful protests, after meeting with that American representative, mind you, have become violent protests. They've torched police stations. They've thrown these firebombs at cops. For all the talk of, oh, they're beating protesters. They only say that for countries that we don't like. For countries that we like, it's never an issue. You never really hear that from mainstream media for, let's say, the Yellow Vest movement. But for this, it's on everywhere. Meaning, the Yellow Vest movement has been going with just as much intensity for just the amount of time, for longer than this, like months longer, 3 or 4 months longer than this. You never see it on mainstream media. You never see it. The question becomes, who is making the determination to put this with so much intensity and luminosity while dimming down what is taking place in France? I guess my point to you is in the same way that Indian media was shaping the attitudes and everything else and weren't non-biased actors in the process, I'm telling you, American media is also not. This stuff on Hong Kong has been everywhere, and it has been over the top. And not saying that it's not important to cover. It is. But so is the Yellow Vest movement in France. So is the Yellow Vest movement. And maybe even more so because of the way that started, the intensity of that, and the way that by not covering it in media, it's their way of trying to tamp down on the information about it. Because if people see it, they may be able to join in and assist, whatever they're seeing.
Yeah. We had 2 super chats in that same vein. Tune at 20. He says there is media coverage for Hong Kong, 0 for Yellow Vest.
Yeah.
Then he also went on to say there's 0 media coverage for Biden for getting Obama as well.
That's interesting. So on left-wing media, yes, like we've been covering it, but
right, and that's what somebody else
media.
said. Progressives know, but it's not out there for anybody else.
My mom was talking to my great aunt, and she was like, "Who are you voting for?" And she says, "Biden is the only one that can beat him." And she's like, "Yeah." She says, Biden forgot Obama's name. She's like, "What?" She says, "Yeah."
No idea.
She didn't know.
She also couldn't, from the conversation that we were having with your mom, it didn't seem like she knew why.
Yeah.
She thought Biden was going to be
more electable.
Right. She was just like, oh, because he could beat Trump. But why? Because he's more electable.
Why is
more electable? Because he could beat Trump.
I told you.
What?
I told you. He's more electable because he's more electable. And it's like, well, why do you think that? And
because
then you get
he can beat Trump.
And then you get into this notion of he's not right in the head. And she doesn't know that.
Yeah.
Like, you point to the cognitive glitches. Now, if she read newspapers, she might know it because the newspapers bring up mental fitness and that type of stuff every so often. But if you're just watching Rachel Maddow, you're never going to see Biden, my former boss, or going into these weird things about Obama getting shot. That you shouldn't even have gone there. That's too far right by itself. Or these kind of incoherent, rambling speeches that he would give where the audience is like, what is he talking about? I'm stunned that hasn't broken through a little bit more than it has.
It's kind of a big deal.
Some people are getting it. I mean, the youth are getting it because clearly his polls are going down.
Well, not only that, but the youth are looking outside of mainstream media. Typically, they're not, looking at Fox News.
They're not stuck in that context.
One more super chat. MAGA Zog Failure. Thank you for the super chat. He says, don't ban or censor freedom of speech. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks, man.
So thank you, man, for that.
Well, I tend to be a free speech extremist to a certain point. Not entirely. I mean, I guess you can't call yourself an extremist if you say it to a certain point. I mean, but even extremists have points, right? Even extremists have limits.
M the Core, thank you for the super chat. Going back to the Kashmir conversation, he says, will you have Sharm Sharma on
I've had him on
to talk about Kashmir?
Oh, God, that's going to be an argument. That's going to be an argument. Maybe. I might hit him up. That's just going to be an argument. Sharm Sharma is... So I had him on... We were talking about Tulsi Gabbard.
He's been on the show
before. He's been on the show before. And
you've been on his
and
too.
People have been like, how are you not... it's like, how are you dealing with that guy? It's like, what do you mean I'm not dealing with the guy? He's a person who does a channel, has an opinion. It's like, he's not radioactive. Him and I... Like... You can talk to people who have a different opinion, Like, it doesn't have to always get to the point that I hate that person. Some people have political opinions that you find objectionable, even though, you're not being overtly disagreeable. Like, he's never said anything out the way to me.
Yeah.
But on this, we would disagree massively. And I that would be an interesting conversation. I would wager, though, his knowledge of Indian history, of Hindu stuff, all that stuff is well beyond me. I mean, this gets more into the politics of whether what's taking place is right. Because if Kashmir has always been somewhat of a sore spot, right? It's that thing that kind of is like its own region, and we don't want it to be its own region. Yeah. It should be ours, and and some of them even go as far as saying Pakistan should be ours. Pakistan shouldn't exist. Like, it depends on how far you go with that stuff. Some people have even saying, we want the other region of Kashmir also. Like, this has potential to get bad. Maybe. I need to check his show and see what he's been talking about it. But maybe. It's funny, I hadn't even thought about that. But he would be the person who would give that particular opinion of the counter opinion to Kashmir. Because I could be wrong, but all likelihood, he is chest thumping like nobody's business on this particular issue. And it's like, you're chest thumping people being put into prisons and ferreted away, called terrorists, and that type of stuff. So yeah, maybe. I would need to learn more about this issue, because I would have wagered he knows more about this than I do. Not necessarily the imprisoning. Like, there's no excuse for that at all. So I don't give a shit what he knows.
The specifics of some of that.
Because this is his culture, per se. So maybe it'd be an interesting conversation. And maybe the determined conversation is better. Not necessarily a debate.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm going to do my spiel really quickly.
It's going to take him
we have about 250 people here, so thank you if you are just joining us. Make sure that you hit the thumbs up button so that YouTube's algorithm can let people know that we are here and live, and more people can join us. If you're not aware, today is the weekly contributor appreciation show, where once a week we take the time out, or Jamal takes one specific show to say thank you for everyone who contributes to the channel. Whether it's your super chat, your stream lab, your patron contribution,
liking the video,
or if you
sharing the video, or even watching the video.
This is my one thing, man. This is all I have in life.
That's not your one thing. You're not a one-trick person. See,
if you are sharing, subscribing, watching, then thank you as well. All the support, all the views, all the love for the channel are appreciated. And so today is the show where we use your topic suggestions posted on the Patreon platform to fuel today's content. So if you are a patron, don't forget to log in weekly and send your topic suggestions for the Sunday contributor appreciation show. If you do not know what patron is, I can say it because I know that you don't like to promote and stuff like that. But if you're enjoying the content and you're here regularly, consider being a patron. Maybe you can do $1 a month, because essentially what it is you're saying that people who are doing YouTube people who are doing YouTube full time and are content creators, I want to make sure that they can continue to give content. It takes resources, it takes time, it takes effort, and all that good stuff. And so I'm going to commit to $1 a month, and it goes to the patron, and that's it. So, that's it. So consider it. If you are, thank you. But like we said, because not everybody can, some people have other reasons and they don't want to give through Patreon. So some people give through PayPal as well. But if not, then watch the videos when they pop up. Check them out. If you like them when they pop up, give the video a thumbs up. Share it. And make sure you're subscribed, and then also make sure that you hit the little bell notification icon, because that gives you the notifications when Jamarl is going live and posting new content.
So there have been 900 arrested in Hong Kong's protests, and not just 900 arrested. Some of the people who were the top, quote unquote, pro-democracy. See, this is fucking propaganda. Pro-democracy. I love that, right? When these guys were under British rule, that wasn't a democracy. Britain did not run democracies. It wasn't a democracy. And, whatever freedom they're having now, fair enough. And see, this one is a tough one for me, right? Because they are a bunch of hawks and neocons that seek just to ding China. Like, their objective in it is, we want to use Hong Kong to ding China. That's all we want. That's what we want. We want to use that as essentially a weapon and just bang China over the head with its own arm. But that's not my point of view in this. My point of view is different. At the point where something becomes something different, it's something different. Like, Hong Kong is something separate and distinct. It may be part of China, that is true, but at the same time, they had 1.7 million people marching on that tiny island. 1.7 million people. It's not that I think everybody on the island wants some kind of whatever pro-democracy means, quote unquote. It's more so that at the point where you have a large group of people that are pushing in a particular direction, they should have the right to self-determination. And my feeling that's almost an absolute. Maybe not necessarily, Texas having its own thing, because a few people in Texas won't have its own thing.
Yeah.
But this is different. Hong Kong is its own thing to some degree. And by the same token, I'm stuck with this thing that I don't want to be in a room with neocons in this case. In the case, my motives are different, even though it may end up with the same notion.
Yeah.
However China deals with this, if they're heavy-handed, it will cause a certain outrage around the world. Right now, some of the people have been arrested, and you must also understand a certain tactic. A violent protest that gets put down, and then the Western media only reports the putting down. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like you would have, like, in Venezuela, there would be the situation where these gangs are out there attacking cops, and then the cops put them down, and then Western media says, oh my God, the cops in Venezuela put these guys down horrendously. Leaving out the fact that they were violent gangs that were, causing trouble. Same thing with this. They're attacking cops. It's not that I'm rah-rah cops, but I have enough sense to say these guys are burning down police stations.
Yeah.
They are literally attacking airports. And in their attacking of the airports, the Western media looks at this and says, oh man, these cops are kicking ass. What the fuck are you talking about? If this was America, you would have had multiple people shot by now. They shot in the air, and that was big news. It was like, oh my God, these cops shot in the air. If this was America, they would have put these guys down. Like, look at this. They're throwing firebombs. Are you fucking kidding me? Look at this. Petrol bombs and water cannons. This is...
They said, wait, scroll back up to the picture. The caption says, a barricade built and set on fire by protesters sends up a giant plume as they stand off against riot police on Hennessy Road.
They have been having fights through airports and all these other particular parts. They have been going at it. And so it's like, it's not me saying rah-rah cops. It's more me saying Western media is trying to create a narrative, and Western media has essentially acquiesced to the government's perspective that China is a problem and needs to be curbed. And when it looks out at the world, especially with something like this in Hong Kong, their perspective is, wow, these cops are kicking ass. These protesters are becoming more aggressive. And they would explain, you have all of these people. Some of them became peaceful, but it started to get violent later. But ultimately, it's setting a certain narrative. These guys have been arrested. They're pro-democracy protesters. Pro-democracy protesters have been arrested. Oh my God, they're trying to arrest democracy itself. Like, the language that they're using for this gets across a certain connotation. God, man, this is so weird to me, because I'm in this position of, like, a police officer fired live warning shot. That's big news. If it was America, they would have shot multiple people by now. Yeah. The Hong Kong thing is fascinating, and it's yeah. I'm in this mindset that at a certain point they become something else, but the problem is, how do you? We've invested ourselves into giving them support in a clandestine way. China knows that we're doing that. We're also at a trade war with China right now at this point. There is a military escalation with China in the China Sea. I think it was the South China Sea, where China has started to build up military installations because the West have become more provocative in going after them. Now, again, when the media reports that, the only thing the media reports is those Chinese are building up in the South China Sea. Now, we have 800 bases all around the world. 800 military bases around the world. And they would say, straight face, those fucking Chinese are building up that military base in the South China Sea. And we got to do, So then you can justify Pompeo or somebody coming into place saying, yeah, I mean, we got to do something about the China Sea. So we drove our ships right through them and send them a message that they can't fuck with, our way. They position us in hostile ways, like even the language and everything else. I don't buy this in the sense of I don't buy their narrative in the sense that they want to ding China, but I'm also stuck with this notion of, well, it is self-determination, right? By the same token, I don't want to give these neocons a win of allowing them to ding China, so I get in this weird position of, that place belongs to China, fuck you. But, I don't think it's a straightforward quagmire for somebody who's trying to be honest and engage honestly. I gotta be honest, I don't know. If I lived there, I would want a pro-democracy thing, and I would probably be working with Jimmy Lai in order to try to avoid being shipped to China. Yeah. If I worked there, especially if I was younger, and I felt like, I'm not getting the things that you could do, the potential and opportunities that are there are drying up and that type of stuff. Maybe, by the same token, living in here, I'm almost like, oh yeah, your place belongs to China, man. I don't know. I'm tortured by that. Galloway looks at this more in the sense of saying, you belong to China. Suck it up. That's what Galloway is like. Straightforward. You belong to China. Too bad. Sorry. You don't know where you are. And he has a point. He's like, these guys are waving British flags and whatnot. He said, what the hell are you doing? He says, you were under British rule at one point, and that was not a democracy. So this notion of pretending that Britain is somehow representative of democracy in that particular country was nonsense. That wasn't the way that country was run at all. But now, outside of British rule and outside of Chinese rule, this kind of sweet space of we have autonomy, they want to maintain it. That's not wrong. That's not wrong. The issue is the neocons in this country who says, yes, I'm glad that you want to maintain it. We would like to help you maintain it. So here's money and resources, and here are tactics that you could do. Let's take down an airport. Let's blow up a police station. That's my issue with it. It's the who else is in the room on this particular issue and the bedfellows that you end up with. It just sucks. Fucking Brits. Fucking Brits.
All right.
I want to talk about Yang.
Wait. Can we jump around a little bit?
Of course we can jump around, baby.
Jump up, and jump around.
Punks jump up, get beat down.
Can we jump to Sanders?
We can jump to Sanders.
Let me pull up the
And by the way, I put these articles in the bottom so you guys can see. And look, here's the protest that India says not happening. These are the protests that India says not happening. They don't look mad at all. They don't look mad at all.
Alright, so we're going to move on to the last topic.
Well, it's not the last. We have
Let me finish what I'm saying.
Oh, God.
The last topic submitted by Contributor Appreciation. By Contributor for the Contributor Appreciation Show. Like I said earlier, Michael Williams was the only one that gave us topics officially for this week. So shout out again to you.
Shout out to Michael Williams. You get an extra special attention, buddy.
So Michael Williams wants you to talk about Bernie's medical debt cancellation plan.
Yes. So Sanders.
One
Bernie Sanders.
Bernard.
It was tweeted out. I saw this and I didn't entirely know what to think, but it was tweeted out Wait a minute, let me pull this up. Give me 1 second.
Just really quickly while you're doing that, there's a super chat from Snork Y2K. Says aliens do not use degrees for navigation. Visits next week. That's a little cryptic.
Uh-oh, you got to expand on that one, buddy. I have no idea what that means.
Aliens don't use degrees for navigation. What do they use, man? I mean, I believe you. Well, you know, whatever. But I'm open to the conversation. But.
Oh, by the way, somebody asked if Tulsi was dropping out of the race. I forgot to do this one. This was one that I definitely want to do. So somebody asked, you know, Tulsi gets back, and they shaft her for the DNC debates. For the third debate, they shaft her.
For the polls.
For the polls. Because you found out later that CNN was slow walking, paying for the polls, because CNN was tied to some of the polls that were supposed to come out in a particular area. CNN wasn't paying for them, in which case they didn't come out with the polls.
Yeah.
But beyond that point, Marianne Williamson made the point that said they were supposed to get 17 polls that they would be allowed to use to determine whether or not they're eligible. Tulsi has already met the threshold for unique donors. For the polling, she, I think, had like 1 or 2, but she had a slew of polls that had her like 2%, 3%. But the Democratic Party said, we're not using those polls. But then you have this weird situation where their polls aren't coming out anyway.
So the 17 that they were supposed
gets
to
whittled down to 5, meaning there were only 5 polls between one debate and the other debate that the Democratic Party was using. So even though she had these other polls that she was doing well in, they weren't using those. And so now they're going to go to the third debate without her being on stage. That's dodgy as all hell. And it's dodgy because they're building this. All of this is built on the lie of 2016. You understand? Do you understand what I mean by that?
I do.
Like, when Tom Perez is constructing the system, he's constructing it based on,
well,
I want to make sure that we have a lot of debates, and, you know, I want everything to be fair because there was an appearance of impropriety last time. It wasn't an appearance of anything. You cheated. You cheated. Call it what it is. And so instead of dealing with the fact that they cheated and calling it what it is, they come up with this nonsense, meaning they gaslight and they lie, and then they base this off of the lie. Like, you know, if you get my point. So now she's excluded from the debate because Tom Perez is trying to be fair by basing all of this nonsense on the lie of 2016 because they don't want to deal with the fact that they cheated the guy. If you're being honest and real, having 5 debates between the 2 times is unfair. I'm sorry. Especially if you told them you would get 17 timely polls between the 2, and the campaign was dependent upon those polls, and the DNC didn't even own those polls. Meaning the DNC had no power whatsoever in the determination of when those polls were going to come out. They allowed something to be separate from them to determine something about them. Like, this is incompetence on a grand scale.
So what's the Tulsi camp saying?
So this is what Tulsi is saying. They're asking, somebody asked Tulsi, is she about to bow out of this race? Bow down.
I was laughing the other day when...
Come on, Tulsi.
The aliens got her.
Come on, Tulsi. Tell us, Tulsi.
Come on YouTube or Twitter.
It's coming back. Coming back.
I started hearing from a lot of people in the media when they said, okay, you didn't make the third debate. Are you quitting? Like, hell no. Hell no. And if any of them had been listening to what I've been saying about what this movement is about and why I'm running for president and what is at stake, they would understand why we are here and why we will never quit. Yeah.
Did she say we will never quit?
Why we will never quit?
She will quit at some point. I mean,
it's different. Like if she loses.
I mean, yeah, but we will never quit is kind of an absolute statement, right?
Well, she's not quitting.
Well, but she said never. We will never quit.
She's not gonna quit.
Ever?
Babe, she just said never.
They're going to have to take her out with security at the Democratic Convention because she's still going to be there plugging along.
No, she might lose, but she ain't going to quit.
Oh, I see. I see.
Hell no.
I see. Hell no.
Hell no. I didn't even believe that. Hell no. Does she curse at home with her husband?
I don't know.
Like when her friends are like they're playing game, some kind of game or something. Like she gets all excited and passionate about something. And she's like, "Man, fuck this!"
I bet she cursed like a sailor.
I just want her to. I want to see that.
It sounds like Dolomite.
If somebody knows Tulsi Gabbard in her own personal home setting,
drop that video of her dropping an F-bomb.
Record a passionate video of Tulsi Gabbard. I like her. Tulsi's cool.
Passion doesn't seem to be a strong suit.
She was like, hell no. She'd be like, hell no, we won't go, but
be stronger.
But just, hell no.
And show a bit of outrage. Like I've watched she did a video with Tucker, I think it was Tucker Carlson, and she was having this conversation about not being included in the debates. And it was not good. Like, it wasn't good. Like, I'm sorry. I like Tulsi. It wasn't good. It was unclear. Like, meaning she was like, there was a lack of transparency in the debate. And, so I think we need to have, we want to get on the debate stage. She was like, well, what do you mean by transparency? Well, I mean, it was just unclear. It was a lack of transparency. And now I'm like, what do you mean by lack of transparency? I had no idea what she was talking about. Like, I understood she meant the polls and the way the DNC is choosing these polls are somewhat, like, how do you choose one poll over another? It's arbitrary. Mm-hmm. So I get that part. But it seems like the stronger argument is they told us there'll be timely polls and they're not.
It's like she's non-confrontational, which I get to a certain extent.
She's a non-confrontational. She put a knife in Kamala Harris.
No, I mean, like, on some of this other stuff.
Did you see what she did to Kamala Harris?
We're not going to watch it again.
Oh, okay.
I did, but I guess what I'm saying is, for the most part, when she's having, I don't know, maybe that's not the right word, but she just kind of like
zen.
Yeah.
But I don't want zen.
Not all the time. There is a time and a place, and I think if your overarching status is zen, that's cool. But every now and then, I want you to.
I want a repose condition. Like I do want like an even keel. So don't misunderstand me. But in communication, people communicate in ways that they can understand, and everybody's not zen, especially when things aren't going well. I mean, like,
there's a certain degree. You're gonna drop out, and you're like, hell no.
Yeah, there's a certain degree of emotional connection to people when you get pissed off. Yeah. When you get they're like, Sanders is angry, but then you look at the news and it's like people are angry. Yeah, it's like there's a reason to be. But she's not going anywhere, nor should she go anywhere, because fact of the matter is, when the next poll come out, Tulsi Gabbard could have enough to get on that fourth debate stage. So, she has no reason to get out of the debate, even though people are saying, are you going to get out of the debates and that type of stuff. She's not going anywhere. Good. I don't want her to go anywhere. I want her to get on that stage so she can put a knife in Elizabeth Warren.
Stop saying knifing people.
That's the way I see it. I mean, it's a fitting analogy. What a metaphor.
Jeff says she calls our planet Mother Earth. Right on. Donald Smead. Thank you, Donald. He says Tulsi knows they're waiting to Dean scream her.
Well, no. I mean, they're not waiting to Dean scream her.
What is that?
Oh, when Howard Dean... Oh, that might be before your time. Howard Dean gets on it. David Chappelle even makes jokes about this. Howard Dean gets on the debate stage. Howard Dean is doing really well in polling. And he's supposed to be like the Democrat. Back in those days, that was a lefty's lefty. Now he's just a lobbyist, corporate lobbyist. But back in those days, he was a lefty. And Howard Dean gets on, he says, we're going to Wisconsin. And we're going to California. And we're going to Virginia. And we're going to New Hampshire. And we're going to North Carolina. And we're going to Wisconsin. Yeah! And he's like flips out. And people are like, whoa.
I actually remember that.
He hits the booyah stuff. And people are like, whoa, this guy's, unhinged. Now, if you look at the whole thing, it's not too bad. But from the standpoint of the media, they ran that like, this guy's unhinged. This guy's not put together well. This guy's a lunatic. And they ran that shit in loop with him just screaming over and over and over again. And it was like, how do you live up to that? Like the scrutiny of just the scream. And so what do you know about Howard Dean? David Chappelle has a joke.
Because I've heard you make that noise like 100 times in my life.
But that's the point. Do you get my point? Like they made that so iconic that Howard Dean is known as the guy. We got to find that video.
No, we don't. I have to head out.
We're almost finished. Hold on. We're almost done. Promise you, we're almost done.
I'm leaving in 5 minutes.
All right, so Yang Gang has ran into a larger gang. A gang of people who are pissed off.
Don't say that. Yang Gang, Bang Gang, all this, it's kind of like that's the next thing that you're about to say.
What are you talking about?
Yang, Gang, and gangs and yangs. It just sounds like Bang Gang is about to come next.
No, not Bang Gang. I was going with this notion of
Gang Bang.
Yang Gang.
Down the road.
And then the term gang gets beat up by a larger gang of people who are pissed off at his reaction.
The gang.
You want to call it that, but you're using those words, not me. That's kind of dirty.
Okay,
so
go
let's
ahead.
not
do
that,
Because I got 5 minutes. Oh, Trudy says, happy belated birthday.
Thank
P.S.
you, Trudy.
Look at the camera once in a while.
Oh, my bad, Trudy.
He looks at me because I'm so beautiful. No, I'm just joking.
And it's this weird presence thing.
He
Usually
likes
nobody's
to
here.
engage the person that's there.
Well, usually nobody's here. And even when I'm on the radio, if you notice, I'll be like, hey, Ron. It's like, and Ron is like, what, who? He's like, what? He's awesome. He's been my co-pilot. I'm on the radio station. WRWK 0.93.
93.9 FM, The Work. WRWK.
93.9 FM, The Work. I've had fun at the radio station.
All right, come on. We got, because I got.
So Yang hits the skids on this one. Gotta ask people foreign policy questions. The Asian man that wants to give people $1,000 is not enough. You gotta ask people foreign policy question. Yang gets a foreign policy question. He got another question on Julian Assange and failed miserably on that question. And so here we are again with Yang getting hit with a question outside of, is the Asian man going to give me $1,000?
You gotta come to the table with more than that. I mean, I gotta be honest. It sounds good, but what the fuck else about everything else that's gonna go on in the country and the planet and the world?
Well, he's about to tell you what is about to take place in Palestine and Israel, and whether or not Israel should be able to run roughshod over Palestine. Listen to this. This is extraordinary.
In terms of the money we're giving to an ally like Israel, my first instinct would be like, why would we reduce it? And so certainly if I communicated something else, like that's not the idea at all. There are certain relationships we have that, to me, we need to rebuild and strengthen. And I would suggest that our relationship with Israel is one of them.
And what about the Arabs?
You'd have to look at it in a case by case and say, like, what's happening in terms of our bilateral relationship with a particular party. But my zeal is to try and build strong alliances and partnerships. If someone's been working with us for a long time, they should feel like they're being rewarded for that, frankly. And then if someone has an interest in working with us, we should be open to rewarding that too. But for each country, you'd have to look at what's going on at that time and what the lead-in has been.
So when it comes to land in Israel that's being taken, even though it was granted to certain Palestinian families by the UN, how do you feel about constricting Israel almost to prevent that from happening, and constricting political influence by American leaders in Israel?
I'm not sure I understand the question, but I'll answer it more generally, which is, like, my stance on this is that it's going to be hard for the United States to constrict, like, an ally or really just about any of its partners in a decision that they feel is central to them, and I don't think that's our priority. It's not that we're somehow giving people aid so that we can then twist their arm about things that that they find important.
Essentially, Israel can do whatever Israel wants, and we should not use the fact that we give them billions of dollars.
Doesn't mean we should have any influence on what they decide is right for them.
And the sad part about this, there's a certain incompetence about this, because whether he realizes it or not, the whole reason that the U.S. gives all of these countries aid is for influence. The whole point of aid is influence. When I am giving you a ton of cash, why do you think China is doing the Belt and Road Initiative? Tell me, why do you think China is doing that? Why? You think China is doing that for itself? Just because it's for shits and giggles? They're doing it for influence. Part of it is economic influence, but it's also this notion that if I am putting a bunch of money in a particular area, I have a certain degree of influence and leeway in that area. Think of your political system. It is flush with cash. The people who give politicians money are not giving them money just because they want to see a better world. They're giving them money because they want influence with that particular politician. That is literally your political system. 90% of the elections are won by the side with the most cash. That's true. Watch them boast. Democracy dies in the darkness. Those guys. That's true. If that's true, that means oligarchs essentially run your political system. Because your political leaders, the only impetus they have is to win that election, which means they have to bend to the side with the most cash. The side with the most cash, you don't even really need to pay attention to the elections. Just look at who has more money. And you would 9 out of 10 times get it right. You have an oligarch. I mean, for all intents and purposes, your candidates are going to go to cash. They need cash. Yeah. That's the thing that allows them to get elected. So who are they going to lean to? Who are they going to bend to? They're going to bend to the side with the most cash. My point is this. In the same way cash is influence within our political system, cash is also used as influence in other systems when we give them money. When we give them money. Israel is our attack dog in the Middle East. We allow them to do whatever they want. We don't constrict them with cash. Sanders has made the point that, yes, I will start using the money in order to try to compel Israel's behavior, meaning they may not need our cash if they want to go along with the things that they're doing. He put that on the table. He's essentially said they can do whatever they want. Not my business. We have to look at it as a case-by-case basis. Israel mows down 2,000 human beings. Israel, bombings, taking down these people's houses. I showed the other day the apartment complex that Israel literally mowed down, put a gun in the guy in the kid's face, and dragged the guy out. The guy said, "You can shoot me here." And he's like, "Just leave me here." And it was like, "Dude, I don't want to have to put my hands on you." You know, it's like, that happens every day. Not to mention they're throwing kids in prison. The 14-year-old, 15-year-old who are getting beat in prison and put in these torturous conditions. Yang, his response is, they're an ally. They do whatever they want. They do whatever they want. Go ahead. You can leave.
I have to head out. Ciao. Sayonara. Thanks for having me. Are you going to put me on the thing? No? I can't say goodbye?
The walk of shame doesn't need to take place right now.
That's fine. Okay. Well, bye, sucker. I'll try to be back next week, but I got stuff to do because we got to get out of here. And so, finish up without me, and I'll see you on the next one. And happy birthday, and thank you everyone for the birthday wishes and for all the great content. Live long and prosper. Hasta la vista. Ciao. Bye.
I'll wait until you get out the frame. You go ahead.
Don't treat me like trash.
Beat it, sucker.
It's rude. Disrespectful.
So yeah, Yang fails. That's a horrible, horrible answer. And a bunch of lefties have been flipping out at that very particular answer that Yang has put forward. The notion that we give them billions and billions of dollars, and they're asking Yang, look, these guys are taking other people's property, and Yang is like, yeah, I don't know what you mean by that, but I'll answer this in somewhat of a general way. You knew what he meant by that. He's making a very particular point of, they're stealing land. Are you going to back them as they steal land? And do you believe that our finances and the money that we give to them to some way create a tether whereby we try to stop them from stealing land? Yang is like, they're an ally. No. Just bluntly, no. That's a fail. That is a failed answer. That is a horrible, horrible answer. Yeah, that's a horrible answer. All right, let's see. All right, there's one more story I want to do. And this is on Brexit. What is taking place in the UK right now is nothing like anything we have in American politics. Literally. And I mean literally. It is utterly fascinating. Boris Johnson gets into office. Boris Johnson is elected by 93,000 Tories out of a country of 65 million. Let that sink in for a moment. Theresa May gets in office. Theresa May government fails to do the one thing that Theresa May was supposed to do. deliver Brexit. She failed at delivering Brexit. And in failing at delivering Brexit, a leadership contest erupted when she finally, tearfully, zombified remains, just collapsed. Boris Johnson, foregone conclusion almost, wins. Bojo is stuck with the same parliament that Theresa May had. If Bojo is stuck with the same parliament that Theresa May had, how on earth is Bojo going to get anything accomplished when Theresa May couldn't get those things accomplished? And herein lies the politics of the UK now. Bojo, again, no mandate, zero mandate. Only the Tories put him in office. 93,000 people without a mandate. He is now going to deliver Brexit. And in going to deliver Brexit, the first thing he's asked for is he wants, what is it, prorogation, I think is the way they call it or pronounce it. But essentially, it's closing down Parliament. It's a suspension of Parliament. And it's suspending Parliament all the way out until October. Now, they leave on October the 31st. So you can understand the problem here. If you are shutting down Parliament for, let's say, 2 weeks, and then when you start up, you only have like maybe 1 or 2 weeks before you actually leave the European Union. Well, that's somewhat of a problem, and that's literally an undermining of the democratic order. In order to do this, he goes to the Queen. He asks the Queen for her permission to suspend Parliament. Now, the Queen in this situation, I suppose, could get involved, but the Queen is not going to get involved. In fact, it would be weird for the Queen to get involved. The Queen essentially gives him permission to do just that, at which point Parliament will be suspended. There's going to be one session on Tuesday, and if Parliament is going to do anything about the fact that it's going to be suspended, it will have to be on Tuesday. It will have to be all at once, and Parliament would have to somehow cobble together some kind of force to work together to either do a no confidence vote in Johnson, which I suspect is not going to happen on that particular day, or at the very least do some way to attack the prorogation, meaning to stop his ability or to curtail his ability to do what he's trying to do in regards to the next few weeks. It is fascinating politics. There are few things to understand, and there are few things that are true at once. The prorogation is not illegal. It is not illegal in the least. It is part of British politics. It is strange, but it's part of British politics. So, fair enough. Also, the British statutes, or the way British law is written, it allows for a Tory to change leaderships. Like, there's nothing like that in US politics, where, you have your guy in, and all of a sudden you just flip to somebody else. But in this case, well, that's not true. If the president is shot or something to that effect, the vice president could take over. But nothing like this, where the leadership just kind of rotates. And then the guy who takes over was not voted in by anybody else other than the Tory party. There's nothing like that in American politics. That's bizarre. That's strange to us, anyway. But that's not illegal. That's allowed to do. So even though only 93,000 people put Boris Johnson in that office, Boris Johnson is perfectly, legally allowed to do what he is doing. The thing that's somewhat anti-democratic, oddly enough, are the Remainers. Now, the Remainers have tried to go so far as to curtail the referendum, to literally shut down the referendum. Their initial goal was to stop it whole hog. And then it became this thing of, okay, let's try to moderate our language to not really stopping it, but to have these, to bring it up to a public vote and all of this other stuff. It's not that I'm for or against bringing it up to a public vote stuff. I'm just making the point that the Remainers literally wanted to ignore the will of the public itself. So for all these people screaming that Boris Johnson is being undemocratic, you need to moderate your language if you are on the side of being a Remainer. You were trying to do the exact same thing. From the standpoint of Johnson, however, it's also true that this is anti-democratic. I mean, ultimately, you don't want to have the conversation in Parliament, and you don't want to give them a huge amount of time to debate it. You want to create a pressure clock situation where they are under the gun to come up with a solution. That solution being mostly, for the most part, organized just around what you want. And that's assuming the EU even accepts it. It is also true, at the exact same time, that Boris Johnson might be the best person to deliver Brexit. All of these things are true at once. Theresa May was always weak because people knew that Theresa May didn't have the ability to organize Parliament around any idea that she came up with, meaning she got shut down in grand proportions. Why on earth would EU reopen negotiations when it doesn't believe the person could deliver the goods on the negotiations? Boris Johnson has gotten to the point of saying he will deselect members that don't support his Brexit. Hold him up for deselection. This is extraordinary, seeing as Boris Johnson didn't support his own Prime Minister's Brexit. Talk about hypocrisy. But it's a different tact and this kind of strongman way of trying to go about delivering Brexit and scaring the shit out of the European Union. Because whatever you think, the European Union don't want a no deal, Mad Max, helter-skelter, flying by the seat of your pants, off of the cliff at top speed, Thelma and Louise Brexit. They don't want it. Meaning that his tactic of essentially saying, I can stab Britain in the chest and also hit you in the back. And even though I would lay here and bleed to death, you are also going to bleed with me. Now, I am willing to accept this level of depravity if you don't give me another deal. But if you give me another deal, we can avoid this level of depravity. He's willing to take a bullet in order to get the EU to know that he's serious. And all of this stuff is him preparing for a no-deal Brexit with this notion of we may have to go over the cliff if the European Union won't give us a deal. He knows that they don't want to. Let me say it this way. If there's any chance for the European Union to reopen negotiations, it would be under threat of a no-deal Brexit. And the problem is, that's also a certain degree of brinksmanship, which means you can always go over the cliff. His tactics, in this case, are either going to have the government collapse because there may not be any propensity within Parliament for a no-deal Brexit, which means Parliament may take decisive action in order to stop Boris Johnson if he's trying to do this against Parliament's will. By the same token, if you're going to deliver Brexit, the only way you can deliver Brexit in this case is if they know that you're serious about walking out the door. Walking out the door is Brexit without a deal. I'm willing to leave. How can you have a negotiation where that's not part of the mix? I never understood that part from any of the other political leaders. You and I are in a negotiation. You give me terms that are utterly atrocious. Okay, we're going to put you into bondage for X number of years. Whoa! I don't like that, man. I'm leaving. The ability to walk is very important, especially if you're getting a deal that is untenable. If they gave Boris Johnson Theresa May's deal and said, look, this is the best deal we're going to give you, what is he going to do? Is he going to take the deal? No, he can't take the deal. He's going to walk. If they gave Jeremy Corbyn the exact same deal that they gave Theresa May and say, love it or leave it, what is he going to do? In his case, he argued that you shouldn't be able to leave, which makes, again, no sense. Of all of these people, from the standpoint of negotiations, Boris Johnson, at the very least, understand this notion that there needs to be time where you have to be able to walk. And if you don't like the deal, it's part of the process. It's just part of the negotiation. If there is no ability to walk, then it's not entirely in a negotiation. So he makes preparations to walk. He freaks other people out because no one else has that propensity for leaving. All of these other groups, including Burkow himself, are pissed off at what Boris Johnson is doing because they believe he's doing an end run around any kind of constitutional order. The catch here is he has to do an end run around constitutional order if he's going to scare the shit out of Europe to let them know that he is serious about leaving. All of those things are true at once. It's not one or the other. They're all true. The politics in the UK is fucking fascinating. Honestly is. I don't think there's anything else. Jeremy Corbyn is working with other parties with the goal of trying to stop him from doing what I just told you he's trying to do. Meaning, for Boris Johnson's case, if that means taking it off the cliff, he's going to take it off the cliff. He wants the European Union to open up with another agreement, meaning to have a negotiation with him. It's fair to say that the previous government, Theresa May government, wasn't a real Brexit government. This one is. The EU is looking at this and saying, look, a deal is a deal is a deal, and Northern Ireland is an issue, and so we have no propensity to reopen negotiations. Who's going to blink first? Who is going to blink first? The real story here is also true. Boris has no mandate. Zero. And the catch here is, can Jeremy Corbyn or the other parties cobble together enough to collapse the government and create this almost this minority government of sorts? Wait and see. This is somewhat new territory. It's not so much that the prorogation is unknown. That's not so much it. It's more so they are about to leave the European Union, and he is doing this entirely to shut down Parliament, to limit the amount of debate that is had on this particular issue. This is a ticking clock. That's all it is. There's no honest acting in this particular case. He doesn't want Parliament to be able to stop what he plans. He wants whatever he does to be immediate, and they have to respond almost immediately. That said, Parliament has to take actions or countermeasures to prevent what he's doing, meaning either to limit the prorogation, to attack it outright, or to add additional days onto the time Parliament interacts. Or, I would imagine, to try to have a no confidence vote in Johnson. That would be weird, seeing as he just got elected. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. I cover British news. I find it to be absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. All right. I am going to end this. No one is going to surrender their guns. The EU has structural problems of some of the countries being more equal than others. Yes, if it does not fit, this is going slowly to fall apart. So that's a good point, right? I mean, there's some countries that seem to be more wealthy, like Germany, sell their cars to the other countries, that type of thing. Also, the money thing. But, the European Union was built knowing that the structural issues were there. And in fact, the structural issues were a feature, not necessarily a bug. Slurring words. My mouth is dry. It's a feature, not a bug, if that makes sense. Like the problems that you guys are having with the currencies and that type of stuff. That stuff was meant to be broken. The thought was that the countries would have to get closer and closer together in order to fix those particular things. They would have to create a monetary union and all of these other systems. They would have to create a political institution in order to deal with the structural deficiencies that was in the European Union. That was the goal, anyway, to my understanding. The point is, it's not a bug, it's a feature of the European Union. And yeah, slowly falling apart thing. Well, what they didn't necessarily count on was the backlash. Like countries like Italy, it wasn't Poland, what's the other country? With Viktor Orban. Well, maybe it is Poland. But you know what I mean? It's a backlash that was taking place that they didn't necessarily expect, especially with this notion of immigration. When the wars took place and all of those people from Syria and the Middle East are streaming into Europe, many of those countries freaked out. And when those guys freaked out, they started going to right-wing candidates. Those right-wing candidates started making this argument about, okay, we need to have secure our borders, and we need to be able to have control of our borders, which means we need to weaken the relationship with the European Union. Then some people start talking about Brexit. France would never give any kind of referendum. They don't believe in that stuff. So there's that. Or at the very least, they would ignore it. I remember hearing an amazing argument on that, where they were talking about France ignoring the referendum and saying they were browbeating Europe or the UK, because the UK had the temerity to have a referendum to see what the public wanted to know. But yeah, man, European politics is fascinating, but you're right. It's a bug. I mean, it's a feature, not a bug. Corbyn was a closeted Brexiteer. Eddie Warb. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He still is. He still is. Corbyn is still a Brexiteer. He just can't say it. And, he's getting pulled into this Remainer stuff. I don't think he's going to lose. He's going to lose. And this is the first time I've said that Corbyn was going to lose if he's towing this line. I understand why. I get that he has a lot of Remainers on his back. Those Remainers don't want to be in power, clearly. Because the propensity of this, or at the very least the balance, the equation in this, is to say, the referendum said we're going to leave, so we're going to leave. Period. But they're not doing that. He has a bunch of Remainers on his back. They're eating at his heels and all this other stuff, in which case he takes this tact that he's taken now, where he's this kind of, well, we'll leave in this case, but we're going to stay in this case, and we're going to ask for a referendum vote in this case. It's like, what? Nobody knows what you want. Nobody knows what you want. And it comes across as wishy-washy or fence-sitting. Look, a clear message, man, that's wrong sometimes is better than a message that's blurry. That's the George Bush school of politics. You can have a dumbed-down message that is absolutely but ugly ridiculous, and people will go for it, as opposed to the complicated contextual understanding of a particular event. Boris Johnson, we're leaving. Period. Walks out the door. Jeremy Corbyn is there for a while trying to explain what he wants. I have no idea what he wants. I have no idea. I thought he was a Brexiteer. That's what I thought. A long-time Brexiteer. So, it's okay. Alright, guys. I'm going to end this. Guys, I often say this at the end of the show because I mean it. And it is absolutely true. I really do appreciate you guys tuning in and joining us for this show. You guys literally make this show. Well, you don't make the show, but from the standpoint of support, your support essentially allows us to continue to do this show. And I want to thank you for it. So, like, share, subscribe. By tomorrow or the day after, these videos will be cut. So each of these will be cut into certain segments. That's the contribution that Mrs. Thomas gives to the show. And this kind of rah-rah for the show. I do pay her, but I don't pay her enough. So it's almost like a contribution. But guys, thank you. And I will see you probably not tonight, but probably tomorrow on Labor Day. So, thanks all.